They thought his blood sugar got whacked out because he was on steroids and caused everything off balance.
You rolled in about 8:50.
I will remind everybody, this is a live stream, even during breaks, so be mindful of that.
All right, with that being said, I'm gonna call the budget hearings August 21st, 2025 to order, as we'll move right into our discussions here this morning with the remainder of our departments. First off this morning, Superior Court, Judge Houchin.
Give it back up there.
It's on page 35 in your book. Page 35. Morning.
Good morning, thanks for having me. So not much to report, not asking for any change over last year's budget. So I'll answer any questions that you might have, but nothing new here.
Yeah, yours is always pretty cut and dry. No changes there to Judge Houchin's budget, but if anyone would have any questions for him, now's the time to ask. But
He's the only man in 13 years I've been here that never comes in and asks for anything.
well, yeah, that makes it easy. It does make it easy. If there are no questions, then Judge, appreciate you driving in here this
Yes.
morning.
You answer all the questions.
Yeah.
I do have one quick question.
All right.
Because I'm curious. You're so grateful that you, a couple years ago, you reduced the pauper attorney's witness fees down. You have spent very little, if anything, out of that, and I know some of those expenses were deferred to somewhere else, or could you
Yeah.
elaborate on that a little?
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, so, a few things. I would want to give credit to Judge Medlock. There, you guys know, especially people that were here, who have been here a few years, know that pauper attorney fees were out of control for a while. Judge Medlock, I think, deserves credit for getting that under control. When I came in, we split up that pauper fee budget. It used to come all out of circuit court. We split it between the two courts, 50-50. Since then, I've reduced it because we weren't using it. It was $100,000 to me last year, I think, or maybe year before. Reduced it to $50,000. We haven't used $50,000. I debated this year whether to decrease it further. My only concern is I do dip into that if there's some of these other line items run out. I can use it for other expenses. We haven't had really many appointments at pauper. I think Judge Medlock and I are both doing a good job keeping that under control. And then also should give credit to Ryan Bauer in the Public Defender Office has started doing the more simple appeals in-house in his office rather than appointing somebody to do that where we have to pay them, which is usually maybe $3,000 to $5,000 per appeal that the Public Defender Office is absorbing now. So that's been very helpful. So I think there's some possibility that 50 may be able to be reduced in the future. I'm just reluctant right now until we see a little more of a pattern. But you might expect to have some of that revert back to you by the end of the year.
Good. Very, very appreciative of that, because I know when I, 3 or 4 years ago, had a discussion and he just asked the question. He said, I wonder if I was arrested and had charges against me based on my income, if I would qualify for an attorney. And it was a good question. And I know you guys have watched it real close, and I know you have to follow the law, but very, very appreciative of what you're doing. Thank you.
Any other questions for Judge Houchin? All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
your work.
Thank you. All right, moving right along to Circuit Court, Judge Medlock. Page 36.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. How can I be of assistance?
Just if you wanted to just roll through your budget there and tell us what,
No changes other than I asked for a reasonable amount for my employees.
right, what percentage do you figure
I
there,
think
Larry?
it's 10%.
10.
You
Okay.
know, a few years ago, I had to sort of force the issue, and I don't want to get to the point where I have to do that again, but, you know, the discrepancies between the counties create issues, and I've had trouble replacing people because of the disparity.
Yeah, seems to be a problem really across the board with
It is.
all
We
departments.
get skilled people that know what they're doing.
Right.
This is really important in what we do.
Yeah, absolutely, I understand that. Yeah, other than that, don't see any, too many changes there. You still have well, I saw there was one increase there on the law books. Have they went up too, or is that?
They always go up.
Gotcha.
And last year, we had to take some from pauper to pay for the book, so I asked for a little bit more.
Gotcha.
It's just materials that I have to have.
Understand. Anyone have any questions?
How many trials did you have?
I'm sorry?
How many trials did you have last year?
I don't think we had any. Maybe one.
So like meals for jurors? Are you running okay on that?
Yeah. Yeah, no problems. No problem. Since there's been a transition in the prosecutor's office, the amount of trials has diminished significantly.
Are you working yourself out of a job?
No, there's still plenty to do. I wish we did have a few more trials.
Right.
I think it needs to be done, but I don't have the final say on that.
Appreciate it.
Looks clean to me. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Judge Medlock? All right, if there is none, thank you.
Thank you.
Larry, have a good day.
Thank you very much. I'll get some.
Yeah.
Good luck, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you. Yes, sir. That's what, it pays to get here early.
That's right.
All right, we'll move right along. Next on the list, Public Defender. Sandy is here. Page 37, in your books. Morning.
Apologize, Ryan is out sick.
Oh, is he?
Apologies that he's not here.
I get it.
I'll try and get questions to him, and hopefully we won't have any.
Okay.
That's another clean.
Yeah, looks pretty clean to last year. I see, looks like he did put in a little for employee raises, I don't know.
It's like
He
2%.
requested,
Yeah, he didn't figure much there.
no, 3% for the
Three.
attorneys, 5% for the two support staff people.
Gotcha.
So whatever you all are, we're excited and happy for.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a whole lot of other, none of the other line items look like they have changed that I see. So pretty clean too on that end. Anyone have any questions for Sandy on the public defender budget? Give everybody a minute to look that over.
I'm usually pretty easy to get along
Yeah, yeah.
Most people are till they want something.
He just had to throw that out there. Yeah. All right, well, if there's no
Thank
further
you.
questions, thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you for your years of service.
Yes, I was just sitting here thinking, how many years you got?
I started with the county in 1991,
It's been a while.
so whatever that would be.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Tell Ryan, we hope it gets to feeling better.
I'll let him know, thank you.
Thank you.
That's 34 years.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't even really thought about it, but yes, it is. A long time. It is that. All right, Myra, you wanna come forward, we'll just keep rolling. Probation, community correction. Pages 38, 39, and 40 in your book. Start with probation.
I think I have these pages in order, so if I
Okay.
don't, stop me and tell me where you're at, and
I
I'll
got
let
you.
mine up. Okay, so the first page is, the probation officer salaries out of county general. This year, well, for 2026, the state did not give probation any raise. So only changes in salaries would be if one of my probation officers moved up into another level where they actually got paid more. So that would be the only increase you would see in the salary.
Gotcha.
The next page is Fund 1122. This fund is through our Washington County Community Corrections, and it's our projected income that our participants pay in. I did increase the amount for the meals and for the gift cards. Those both, the gift cards kind of are an incentive that we hand out to the participants. Our numbers are starting to go up, and so we wanted to make sure we had enough money in there for 2026 to cover the gift cards for next year. And then the third page is the community corrections grant. I applied for that through the Department of Corrections. We have been running at $120,300, and we have been approved for that same amount for 2026. Okay, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, yeah, go right ahead.
The next fund is Fund 2100. It's my adult probation user fees. We collect these through the people who are on probation. The only thing that increased in this is the salaries. I did ask for 5% on my 2 secretarial positions. I increased the overtime vacation pay just because there's 3 of us that are close to retirement, and I want to make sure there's enough in there to pay vacation and comp if one of them was to retire. Otherwise, other than your benefits for your payroll, I believe everything else stayed 2150, which is juvenile probation, I increased nothing in this one. It's all exactly like it was for 2025. And it is obtained through user fees paid for by the juveniles on probation. My next fund is 4906. It's the home detention fund. This one's also obtained by people on home detention, and I increased nothing in that fund either. Next fund is 4911, which is my drug screen fee. This is fees earned when people take drug screens. I did not increase that one as well. The next fund is 4928. It is the Veterans Court Fund. It currently houses the user fees that we collect from the participants in Veterans Court, as well as the Indiana Office of Court Services grant that we operate out of. I did, when I submitted my budget, I submitted it as what had been asked for in the Indiana Office of Court Services. They have now ruled on that, and they have actually lessened the amount, so it should actually read $9,500 is what I'm going to get by the grant, and then the $1,000 that I had in there for gift cards. So it'll actually be $10,500.
Okay, down from the 15 that you anticipated before the, okay. All right.
My next fund is 4945. It's alcohol and drug program. We have a certified alcohol and drug program that we run contracted out through our place. That did not change. They actually did raise the contract, but it's still covering it.
Okay.
The next fund is Fund 1237, and actually the next one is 1238. These are the opioid monies that are given to the counties. The first one is the restricted amount, the second one is the unrestricted amount. This is actually funds that the commissioners oversee, but we have been helping them in approving the contracts, so we felt it was better to go ahead and draw a budget on those. We did that for part of 2025, which makes it easier when we award somebody a contract. We can go ahead and get the monies quickly, rather than having to wait for the additional appropriations. So I looked at the amounts that were in both of the funds already, because those come down every year, and then I built a budget with what's in there that's not already asked for 2025, and so that's why I have these two amounts. The restricted actually is way higher than that, but we've not been having that many in. This doesn't say I can't go back and ask for additional appropriation if it goes over this, but this just gives us a start.
Gotcha.
And that's my fund.
Anyone have any questions for Myra on any of her funds there?
I have a question. Myra, how many more years will we receive that amount for the opioid funds? Is that a year-to-year thing?
It's, I believe, till 2036, 38, I'm not sure. It's all broke down in the legislation that came down from the state, and each year the amount that we receive drops a little,
Yeah.
so we don't receive the full amount. It will drop each year.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Are you familiar with the formula they use for that, or, I mean?
I do not. They had it all broke down and notified the counties of how much money they were going to get, and so we have based ours on, this is how much money we're getting, so this is how much money we have that people can ask for.
On the adult probation, on the hit coordinator probation officer, is that an open position because there's no funds been spent on that?
So it is, at one point we had another probation officer under the probation side, and that person was paid out of that. Since that time, we've took over, we started Washington County Community Corrections. In that position, we have a probation officer, and so we have not needed to fill that. This year, there was some major cuts in the Department of Correction grants. Luckily, we didn't get hit. They're saying there's gonna be some more major cuts next year. So I have left that sitting there because even if they do away with community corrections in each county, I still have to run it out of the probation side. So I have left that, so if I had to move some over to probation side, I would have some monies to do it.
Okay.
How many people do you want?
Running over 100 each. Some of like my transfer officer, she's running about 130 people
Really?
on probation right now.
I have no idea, so,
Yeah,
thank you.
I can say I didn't either before I started.
So you're not asking, so you were saying they didn't offer raises to the probation officers, but it looks like 4 and 5 went up.
That's because they will raise up to a new level for their years of
Okay.
service.
Okay.
So I still have to move them up, even though there's a blank, there was no raises offered on
Okay.
each level.
Any other questions for Myra on her, any of her budgets there? Most of them pretty cut and dried.
After hearing those numbers, yeah.
And if you look behind all her budgets, there is the 2026 minimum salary schedule for probation officers. So it will tell you, this is what you pay them if it has this many years, or.
Okay.
Right. All right, if no other questions, thank you, Myra.
Thanks. I have one more thing I want to add.
Sure.
I mean, so I know there's been talk about, and this, I know this isn't really the right setting, but I just wanted, we're talking numbers today, I want to throw out some numbers. There's been talk about not having anyone supervising at the fairgrounds anymore. So I quickly drew some numbers. I don't know if you guys are aware, the court system actually has a community service program that we run. Those people are assigned community service hours as part of their plea, and they then go and do their hours, and they have to complete those in order to, as one of their terms of their probation. So I quickly drew up some numbers. At this point in time right now, we have 23 people assigned to community service that are doing it here in Washington County. Of those 23, 19 of them are assigned to do work at the fairgrounds with Randy, for a total of 2,218 hours. This program's been going on for a while. I know that we've had community service workers that helped when the tree fell on the grandstand. They help with lawn care, weed eating, painting, cleaning, all of that. We had one gentleman that was assigned to do 496 hours with Randy, and he went every day and did his hours, and Randy very much appreciated his help. And this program costs the county nothing. So just FYI, I know this isn't the place, but I just wanted to throw those numbers out. Since it's
Right.
not-
I got a question, the 2,000 some hours, how long is that spread out over that they got to complete that?
It depends on how long they're on probation for, so they have, if some of them are only on for a year, some of them may be on for 2 or 3 years. So it just depends on their length of probation. Some of them may only have 20 hours, but we have had like this gentleman 496 hours to do. So it just depends on what comes through the court to us as to what they are assigned to do.
So that could be spread out up to 3 years, I was just trying to do some math in my head.
Could be, most of them though, we're looking at about 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
And does anyone from your office also oversee them while they're there, or was it always just him?
It's always just him, and he's always, whenever we call him, anytime, day, evening, weekends. And the reason we have so many assigned to the fairgrounds is because most of our people work Monday through Friday. And so their only days off is Saturday, Sunday. Of my other work sites, I have one that will do possibly Saturdays, Sundays, and there's some limitations on what convictions they will take. So it's really gonna limit me as far as having a site for some of these people to do their homes.
Okay.
So, like I said, FYI.
That's good information,
That
thank
is good to
you.
know. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Myra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Was that the interview? That was impressive, but,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I mean, you call it like you said.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll move right along. Claire is here, so come forward.
We got out of turn, is that early? I'm
Yeah.
not until 10.
Yeah, we're that far, we're that far ahead if you're ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
We'll go ahead, yeah. And then we'll-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. Sometimes we get ahead, sometimes we're
So that mean
behind.
I get all the way till the break then, right?
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
I really hope to not use that much.
Well, page 49, in your books begins the, prosecutor's budget here with, starting with, 0009 on page 49.
Okay, so.
Whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. So this account basically handles, my prosecuting office staff. So I have three, what's their title here is legal secretaries. They're more like paralegals. So I have three assistants, the part-time investigator, an attorney, a line item for partial attorney, one of my attorneys' salary, as well as just basic office expenses. So, as you'll notice, I didn't change anything on the office supply line is the same. The attorney line, is the 10,920. What I put over to the right is 11,248. Is last year, if you recall, I think an 8% raise was given across the county to, all the staff positions. However, the attorneys, both in my office and I believe in the public defender's office as well, only got 4% raises. So I was asking, what I did in this budget was to ask for additional 3%. I don't know ultimately what the county's gonna do as far as staff, but the attorneys were not given that full 8% last year, and I think with the cost of living and things that everybody realizes, I thought that was a reasonable request. My part-time investigator, I left right now at $5,000. I may need to address that again in the future. What I've learned recently is a lot of the drugs that we're seeing here in our community with regard to like Delta 8, Delta 10, all the things that everybody wonders what they are and how they're getting arrested, is a lot of the labs never could test for like a quantification of how much THC is in these products. The Indiana State Police Lab does not test for that quantification. So if I have, for example, an edible like gummies or a vape liquid, the state police lab will not test that, which is where all of our normal, what you think normal controlled substances go. So like, for example, the city has a schedule where they go up so often, the county goes up so often, the Indiana State Police send their own things up there. So the one testing facility they've just opened in Indiana is in Lafayette. However, that falls on my office to get samples there. So, right now, I want to pursue this route more. It won't happen hugely at the beginning, but there might be a situation where I've got to then pay my investigator to travel to Lafayette maybe once a month or every 2 months, depending on what I can do with these substances, because I really would like to start getting these addressed and potentially limit access, especially kids are getting hold of these things. It's not good. So, but right now I'm leaving at the 5,000. And then the change that I've asked for in my 3 staff positions is based upon when I was preparing the budget for this year, I looked through all of the kind of county positions and averages across different things, and I noticed that last last year when there was an 8% increase across the board for all of the staff, that at least one of the offices here in the county has upwards of a 12 to 15% increase. The staff in the auditor's office got that kind of increase last year when my girls got 8%. I don't say that to downplay the work that they do in their office, but essentially my girls are everything from legal assistants to paralegals to, there's never a dull moment in my office, from answering disgruntled questions at the door, on the phone, preparing for court, preparing for trial. There's really not a downtime. Plus our office goes around the clock too, so there's times even my staff gets called on the weekends to handle things. So what we have done in the prosecutor's office in the past quite a few years, even before I was sitting in this position, was our office paid all of our staff members the same. So we didn't have a first, second, and third position, because where that comes into challenge is if one person leaves or and another person wants to fill that position, I feel that all of their duties I've tried to spread as equal as possible. So what I took then as that $42,429 is an average of what the auditor staffs are making. So right now they're making, my girls are making $38,416, which is an average of the 3 different deputy positions across the county, and I'm asking for $42,429, which is the average of the most. But from looking at the count, that's the pay sheet, that would be the average of the most highly paid for those positions. So that's the numbers there, if you have any questions on that. And then you can tell me which line item's next in your list.
We're to, let's see.
I think it should be this 066.
Yeah.
0660?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the prosecuting attorney 4D fund. This account, I believe, again, I have 3 positions of staff in that office. So you'll see from last year's budget, those 3 positions were $38,416, just like my criminal side. And I'm asking for that average at the highest office, which is the $42,429. One thing as well, just so you guys know, Jan Ward has been with this county for 32 years. She's finally retiring, and I'm so happy for her. She's got a new grandson and things, and she's hopefully moving closer to her son and grandson. So we will be celebrating her at the end of next week. So if anybody wants the details on that, let me know. But she's leaving, and she's been our child support administrator for those 32 years. And just to give you a little insight on that, the administrator position is not only doing case management work, but preparing an attorney for court and crunching numbers and filling out forms. But she's in charge of all of these state filing requirements, and the state child support administration, since our office as a prosecutor handles that, which is technically civil, they have some very stringent requirements and background things. And so she's on top of all the, we've never had to question, make sure files and reports were done on time, and she gets things to certain people. So that's been a huge role for me to try to fill. And I've tried a couple different times. My last gal was perfect for that, but she moved to a different position where her education and of course a little bit more funds. So I completely understand, but it's kind of left me behind the 8 ball a little bit. But I do have someone now that's filling that I think will be able to step up and take that position. So, but anyway, if you see Jan, if you know Jan Moore, please tell her thank you, because that's a lot, that's a long time. I tried to ask her how many prosecutors she's worked under, and I lost track, so. Quite a few. So again, the 4D deputy prosecutor, there's 2, there's a 1 and a 2, so that's 4. I have, essentially they're both part-time, but one is more, the majority of child support, and so I went ahead on both of those items and showed an additional 3% increase on those. And the reason those numbers look different, if you look from the 2025 budget to what I'm requesting this year, if you recall, I think just from a couple council meetings ago, their salaries did not increase, but I had to shuffle around which line item part of their salary came from. So their total salaries, I'm not asking for the reason it went from like 3,000 to 18,000, for example, on the 4D is just I was pulling funds from this account for Mr. Bills, whereas Mr. Thompson, who's my other child support attorney, I was pulling that out of the incentive fund. So it's really their increases. There was no increase requested for this year, except the numbers you'll see on the right is if you would be gracious to add 3% to them. So technically not an increase of their salary as far as the numbers are there. And again, the rest of the things on those items are just the basic benefits amount now is because child support is reimbursed, to the county for up to, I think, 60% right now, and then the office supplies remains the same.
Okay, any questions for Tara on that? Tara?
That investigator you got, 5,000, is that okay?
To be honest, no. To be in reality, I really, really would like to have, a full-time would be wonderful, because of course, the, as we know, just across, it's everywhere. State police are even having a shortage. I mean, there's just, you guys graciously increased the money for our officers, which has made it more, comparable and to be able to get more people to apply, but we're still short. So a lot of things that I would be able to, our office has to take on to help on the front end and preparing and helping with the investigation, things like that could be, a lot of prosecutor offices in the area have like a full-time investigator or have one that's more part-time but more hours. So I'm just paying this person hourly. Just right now, all I can really afford for them to do is, since we're on the border with Kentucky, a lot of medical records, lab specimens and things that we need end up in like U of L or at Norton's Children's, so I have to have people run and do that for me. But it would be extremely helpful to have an investigator like some counties have that can actually help on that front end to get, search warrants, questions issued, evidentiary type of, just to have that extra arm that's.
What would it take to do that?
I would say if I had a full-time investigator, I'm gonna say 45 to 50,000. Part-time, I could probably do more like 35,000 if I could get some part-time hours. I haven't, this is me just estimating, because I haven't actually, I've talked to some different, usually what happens is you get retired officers from different jurisdictions that want to work in the prosecutor's office and help in those kind of aspects. So, of course, I know before their retirement they'd be making much more, because a lot of times it's the state officers that we work with a lot that want to come in, but especially if it's part-time like that, they may be more flexible. But I've not had anybody, I know when they know what I can pay now, they're like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do it just for a few hours a month, but.
So how much of the drug problem could we eliminate by doing that?
The drug problem do we eliminate? Well, I don't know if we could correlate it directly with eliminating the drug problem. I mean, I think everybody's position is to eliminate it. I think it would help, it definitely would help relieve some of the extra pressure and things that are just overriding on like what my attorneys have to do or my staff have to do, because they're very strict rules of things that the prosecutor's office is required, of course, to produce to every criminal defendant and their attorney, and if we need certain things compiled that maybe the lead investigator or the lead officer doesn't have time to do because they're out on the streets, my investigator would have that power then to compile more things. So I think in the end result, it could help because I would have I'd have someone accessible to get more information quicker up front to us. And it also could help as far as what I want to do, now that I know now that we have a lab here in Indiana that will test these products that we're seeing in these fake shops or gas stations for that matter. I would love to be able to, and one, we have to pay for the cost of that testing. I'm not asking for it. I have some litigation expenses in my incentive fund that we haven't got to yet. These tests run $125 a piece. So and it's not per trip. When I first read their data sheet, I thought, oh, it's up to like 10 items for $125. But no, if you can drop off up to 10 items, but they're $125 a piece. So I have to be selective in that, and I know when I'm looking at a drug case, for that example, I know what I need to, if we had 1,000 vapes, for example, I don't need to send up 1,000, I send up 1,000. So I go through, we do this with every drug case anyway, because we're limited of what the lab can accept even at the state police. So we go through and are very decisive of what gets sent. But that's an area right now that's iffy. People don't understand it in the community as far as, and this is countrywide, as far as the legalization of marijuana. That down the road. But I think what you all need to understand as well as our community that, the THC products we're seeing right now are not what everybody believes is just marijuana from the plant. And especially even the marijuana that's plant grown is not the same, percentage of drug as it was 50 years ago. So for example, almost every edible, every gummy, every THC vape, every weird, product, and it's all marketed as, watermelon or gummy, so kids love it, which is sad because they get a hold of it, but it's, we're looking at upwards of 80 to 90% THC. That's, THC is a psychedelic, so when, especially it's concerning when a child, all of a sudden you might see a child acting erratic and someone thinks they're maybe on something like methamphetamine or what. No, it's THC because it's such a high percentage that it's essentially like LSD. LSD and THC are in the same controlled substance category. So when people talk literally, and the problem right now is the regulation of it. And other states that have legalized marijuana are still seeing this issue, and they're trying to figure out how to regulate this THC because right now our Attorney General has reached an opinion that these products that are not truly plant-based, they're not making it from the plant. They're made in the lab. They're made chemically, so they are controlled substances. And I agree with that opinion. It is now the fact that we can test it that, that's the route I think we need to take. I mean, the legislature could not agree with that, but that's the problem we have right now is these edibles and things like that. One, no one really knows what the level is. And speaking with other detectives and counties across the state that have a pilot program in this, I think they said every single one they sent up there was way over anything that would be considered a legal limit. So, but when you get 89% THC, it's psychedelic. So you're not thinking of someone chilling out and, easing off their anxiety. It's like they're.
So have you seen an inrush since Kentucky's done what they've done?
I'm sorry.
Have you seen an inrush of more of it since Kentucky done what they've done as far as legalizing?
I would say yes, but in the grand scheme of things, Mr. Marshall, the huge amount of we have large dealers in southern Indiana as far as what ends up getting here, but where it really comes from is these other states. I've seen investigations where someone's driving monthly to Michigan, because it's legal up there. So yes, the legalization around us brings this stuff into our state. And the problem is there's no way to quantify and regulate it right now, so the products, and it's very concerning. I mean, I'm a parent, but my children are older, but at the same time, I've got a child that's in college that's 5 miles from Michigan and 10 miles from Ohio, so, and it's a college town, so there's just, you can't take or use anything anymore thinking that, oh, it's no big deal, because it's just, you don't know what you're getting. And there's even been situations now with the vape, the THC vape liquids have fentanyl. Fentanyl's being mixed in with everything, so there's been overdoses of high school kids, luckily not in our community, but even in our state. So yeah, it's a huge issue. And now that I know I can find ways to test it and move forward with it, that's kind of a route that's forefront in my office. But yes, having the funds are going to come into play of having the additional expense of someone that can help manage this and get things we need to do to the right labs and things of that nature. So yeah, thanks for those questions.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if there's not any further questions on that one, we'll move to 1148.
Okay, so this one's really straightforward for you guys. The same request as last year's budget is this year's budget. This is the amount that's allocated to our Washington County Substance Abuse Council, which we've asked for $25,000, which is what we've asked each year, and then we have a grant cycle that starts coming up here in October, and then once the funds are allocated in the first of the year, then the different entities that request grants that we accept and provide are then given out the first of the year. So right now, I think there's usually grants spread amongst maybe 7 to 10 different community organizations, schools, things like that for different anti-drug prevention policies.
Gotcha. 4925.
This one's also simple for you guys. I've not asked for any increases in this. This is pretrial prosecutor is the incentive fund, so this is the different line items, that we asked for. Last year, I did away with the separate line item for deposition witness fees, but we just increased litigation expenses across the board. Luckily, so far, I've not had to come in and ask for any increases in that. We've been very successful in getting what I believe are good sentences to hold corporate people accountable in without the expense of large trials. I mean, not to say we love trial, we have to try, that's why we're trial attorneys, but I also, if we can hold that person accountable and do things of that nature, then we've not had the trial expenses right now.
Gotcha.
13,000 that was not appropriated.
That is what pays back to crime victim
Oh.
assistant grant. Sarah probably don't see it on.
I don't see it online, so I don't see it.
Yeah.
It was an in-house thing, we had to pay
That's
back
true.
the crime victim.
Yeah, there was a, this is another thing so you guys understand. So we've always had a victim advocate. We try to have victim advocates, very important in our office. We wanted to deal with anything from a victim of theft, sex crime, child sex crime. So I do have one of my, when one of my criminal positions opened, we the grant funding through BOCA and different criminal justice institute with the state. Of course, it's been going down each year, and this year it's even more. So what I did last year was able to pull my victim advocate as one of my criminal side assistants. So one of my 3 assistants is our victim advocate, plus she has some other duties in the office as well. So I'd love for her to be pure victim advocate, but she's not. But what had happened in the past when we had the grants a few years ago, and I sat down with Ms. Fleener from the auditor's office, it was apparent that somehow some of the funding, it wasn't 100% matching grant, and so some of that matching the county had put in the bill when it really shouldn't have gone that way. So last year, and I believe
The year before.
the year before, so I'm done now.
No, you're done.
But I used some of this incentive money to pay the county back for that mismatch.
Okay.
All right. No other questions on that one, then we'll move to 8895.
Yes, this is a child support incentive fund. Again, with child support regulations, they're very strict. It can only be used on child support related matters. So this incentive fund then is utilized for additional general expenses we may need, as well as salaries. So one of my child support attorney's salaries, the majority of it comes out of this fund, which is where you see that. And the reason it looks like there was an increase, if you set aside the 3% increase I've asked for across the board, the reason that it shows the higher amount of $46,950 versus the $31,200 last year is because not because his salary is increased, but it came from different line items. So I took more out of the incentive funds for Mr. Thompson, but the amount that he got out of the main child support fund was lessened. So it was just the same amount was coming from different places.
Gotcha. All right. Any questions for Tara on any of her different funds there?
And I do, if I've got a couple more minutes of
Sure.
your time, I wanted to bring this up. This is the first time I've had all of you guys together, which I'm glad. So I don't know if anybody's aware of this. This came in, it got pushed through the budget bill with the state legislature back in June. So this wasn't seen coming or anything like that. So what had happened was, apparently some of the legislators up north in northern Indiana had been trying to push a program for the prosecutor's offices to take over the litigation aspects of the Department of Child Services. This has been a back and forth battle for a number of years, but it's never been done. It's still, DCS is a separate state agency. Just like, for example, if you recall, Adult Protective Services was under the prosecutor's management for a number of years, and the state pulled that last year and gave it to an independent contractor. So that's not through my office anymore. I do have cards and information for people that still come in looking for our APS staff, who did a great job to try to push them in the right direction. But that being said, in this budget bill, because they couldn't get it passed in a normal House or Senate bill, they put in language, basically a simple few sentences that said that they create a pilot program to where they're gonna have a northern group and a southern group of counties for 2 years, where the prosecutor's offices have to take over the litigation aspects of the Department of Child Services. And the other sentence was, the state will pay for whatever cost that is, so there's no cost on the county. So, up north, the counties, there's 4 counties, which is Allen County, which is Fort Wayne, and like the 3 south of that, I don't remember the names. And in Southern District, it is Washington County, Clark County, Floyd County, and Jefferson County. So that being said, our Indiana Prosecuting Attorney Council staff is working now with the DCS state administration to come up with a memorandum of understanding of how this is going to work. Because there's no language other than we want this is gonna happen and we will pay for it. What the counties in the south, I can't speak for the counties in the north, but the counties in the south, our position has been to both our IPAC, our coordinating body, as well as the state DCS individuals, is this should be, it is funded by the state. It should be treated, this attorney that I've gotta take on should be, right now, this individual is a state paid position. He has state benefits, he has state everything. So I don't think it's fair to these DCS attorneys in these counties to be, say you're not, you lose these 2 years, you've gotta work for me potentially, or they could quit or anything else in the matter. But if they stay with the prosecutor's office, they shouldn't, at the end of these 2 years, regardless of which way it goes, lose those state benefits that they've had, or at least have 2 years where they're not on it. So we're asking for them to be, in some counties, for example, where there's prisons, where there's a DOC facility, there's already like an extra state paid deputy attorney, and so they're treated like myself, my chief deputy, whereas the county doesn't pay my salary or my benefits or my chiefs, it goes to the state. So I'm hoping that when we work this out, it's a situation to where it's not the county paying anything up front or providing benefits up front and the state reimbursing, which is what APS looked like for years, but that it all just comes, the money and everything like that comes from the state level. I don't have a specific answer yet. There's a whole timeline now that's been created by the DCS agency of project management and trying to figure out what they want to, how they want it set up. But essentially, the reasoning behind it, I believe, is just that right now the DCS attorneys are essentially kind of in-house counsel to the DCS case managers and directors. They're not able to go in and advocate potentially what they think is best for that child in that situation. If they disagree with the case manager, if they disagree with the director, as when I get a police report, local, state, or FBI, or any, I get to meet with that officer. I get to look over the report and then decide what charges should be done or not. So when a CHIN's case comes across, gets investigated now, kind of like with APS too, like I can make an ultimate decision of, does this person need placed somewhere, does an individual need charged criminally or whatever. So it kind of helps from the standpoint of, I'll be able to see then what's going on in the background, because we work with DCS a lot, as you may guess, with just different child abuse allegations and things like that. So the way I foresee it, the way some of the prosecutors see it, is that I will essentially have a report from the case managers do their work on the ground, they give the initial calls. I see this report, and myself, along with the attorney that is working for me as far as the CHIN's cases, we decide ultimately whether this child needs to be detained, whether CHIN's case should be open. Because right now, the prosecutors have a statutory, we're able to file a CHIN's case anyway. It doesn't happen very often, but for some reason, there's extreme circumstances. There is a statute that allows prosecutors in Indiana to file a petition for CHIN's if we feel that something's not being done. But I think some of these legislatures, they've had some issues up in maybe the northern counties, more so than the southern counties, where they felt that there's been some children placed in situations that maybe resulted in some not great results. And so they wanted the prosecutor's offices, they know the prosecutor's offices can do it, so they give it to us to be able to control that more. So, long story short, there's a timeline now of them trying to put this MOU together. Our staff at IPAC is trying to get this initial kind of draft agreement before they meet with us to do the details. So I can't even argue or talk about details yet because I don't know what big picture's gonna look like. But I will definitely keep all of you up to date as soon as I know what this is gonna look like, I'll ask to be on one of your meetings, either separately or jointly, just so you guys have a heads up of how it's gonna be. But if it's up to me and how the attorney prosecutors down here want it to go, we wanna see it handled through the state budget process and through the state payroll and the state benefits, and not fall down here where you have to upfront pay for things and get reimbursed, so.
Gotcha.
I know that's a lot, it was a lot for us, and so
Right.
we're still working through it. Luckily, my office is pretty tight, since we lost, APS back to private entity, I had a couple spaces there open up. So I'm hoping then to be able to fill, I've saved one for
Right.
hopefully this attorney. I'm not sure yet though, from like the confidentiality aspects, of course, my office is completely, has stringent, confidentiality requirements, but it's, the DCS world and child things are even higher. So it might be something too where I'm like this, I've gotta figure out like where the assistant can be, if they can be, there might be crazy regulations where they can't even be in the office or in the same space as my other staff. So I gotta figure those kind of things out as well, so, yeah. That would be a future discussion.
Gotcha. Yeah, just keep us informed, and we appreciate that information. Any other questions for Tara on?
So what
any-
would that do to your workload and the physical space that you got in the building?
Well, we'd be full, we'd be tight. My only, right now, like I said, it really, I've gotta figure out what, if any, regulations that might be upon the, Department of Child Service side versus my prosecutorial side, as far as if those attorneys, we need the attorneys and their staff to be in our office. I can't manage and discuss cases with an attorney that's still under DCS roof. That really kind of defeats the purpose of them having the pressures of what the local agency is trying to tell them to do when they're no longer controlled by that. So they have to be in my position under my office. I would love to have a bigger space. I know everybody would love to have a bigger space as far as where everybody's tight and on top of each other. We make it work. The worst part, honestly, in my office is my child support staff. There's three, it's always been this way, and they always wish they had a window. That's the only thing they complain about, but there really is 3 girls stuck in like probably a 10 by 12 space. And so they're on top of each other really tightly. I realize that possibly when the new buildings built at the fairgrounds, it's my understanding, I haven't really talked about it in detail, but my understanding possibly that the Purdue Extension people would move to that building, so their location might be open downstairs. I believe that space is bigger than mine, but I haven't walked through that in a long time to even know. So that's a possibility. The only difference there would be I've got kind of a two-way space in my office as far as the outer door is unlocked, they can come in, but they're locked from getting to my child support girls and me. So it's kind of a layer of protection, but it's not, the most that it could be. So there's that issue too. So, but yeah, there will be more. That's another thing we haven't ironed out. So for example, now when I always try to have, I've got 2 people that are child support, technically attorneys. So then if one of my attorneys is on vacation or sick or has, medical emergency, then my other one knows what's going on and can step up. Of course, I can fill any of those hats and go to court, which I have on child support cases. So now I've got to figure out how that's going to look from this Department of Child Service attorney. So when, of course, he or she, right now it's a man in that position, but when that attorney deservingly needs a vacation or has something scheduled or is out sick, who do I have filled for that? Is that going to be something that's, because that will be, if I have to have if I go in or my other attorneys are going in to handle that, 1, can they? And 2, which they answered yes, they can, but 2, it's going to pull away from my criminal side too. So.
Are you still using that one room for storage?
Down the hall.
Filing cabinets, right next to public defender?
Yeah, that's a conference room we have. So basically, we're all digital as far as any new cases and things like that. And I say that from the standpoint that some things still come in physical. So there's some evidence that's just never going to be able to be digitized because it's a huge file or because it's just hard evidence. And of course, those things are always kept, the originals are kept with the law enforcement agencies, but we always end up getting copies and things as we have to work with them. So that conference room space now is a conference room to where we hold meetings, we meet with victims and families, we meet, in trial prep with detectives. So we utilize it, because we don't have a separate conference space in our office. And then there's some storage in there as far as just a couple shelves of things that we may need to get access to. We do have a storage disposal policy that we're allowed to get rid of things after so often, but now it's digital, so we normally just back it up and that way. We have a few things left that's stored out at, the building on Anson, I can't remember the name, Williams Building. And if I had time, if my staff had some extra time, ultimately there's a few boxes of things left that needs to be scanned, and then that space could ultimately be given back. So that's more of a temporary space in my mind, but we do, right now it's not really storage as much anymore as it's, meeting space and.
It's got a shuffle program right now.
Hmm.
So it's got a shuffle program right now.
Yeah, because I believe there's a conference room in the office downstairs too, so. And I do know, like I said, I would love to, if anybody wants to volunteer to meet with me or walk with me through that space. I mean, I'm not saying that it would be perfect, or I'm not saying it's any better than what I've got, but I haven't looked at it in a while, so I'd be more than happy to do that. And then there's always in this child support, world, really the majority of that security that we have in the layers is the child support, individuals come in and meet with our staff right through the side window. So I know I have the county, there's an incentive fund that's, shared by my office and the clerk's office. And of course, it's very limited what can be done with child support money. I wish I could use it across for other things, but we can't. So I know the clerk's only able to use a very small amount for things, and of course, you can only, upgrade and make sure, you can buy computers and different expenses that your child support staff uses, but we also can use it and get permission to use it for, remodeling and things like that, if it goes, and, if it's being utilized by child support, so it's possible there would be some funds like that if things needed to be redesigned. So I'm not specifically asking, to relocate, but it might be a possibility, because we're so cramped up there, but yes, we're still using that down there, which it is, it's connected by the public defender to the public defender's office by a wall. They control my heat and air, so if they really wanted to be mean, they could turn it up to 100 when I'm in there meeting with somebody, but luckily we have a better relationship than that, but, yeah. So,
All right, if there's no other questions, thank you, Tara, appreciate it.
thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thank you. All right, we're gonna break, until 10:30. We'll try to get the sheriff in here next and get him in a little early, so. We'll come back at 10:30.
Don't forget the live stream, will still.
Live
be
stream still active.
Everybody slows down eventually, but you. Yeah. Yeah.
10:30.
What, oh, yeah, it's, yoga and things, what I'm going to do. Wait. So I know I'm not balanced, and see what I'm very straight. Half the time, you was like, kind of mad, and you're just saying, and they're like, they're like, aren't your ankle to your, where, to what, it's like, I'm just on the pretzel.
Yeah. registered voters salary. Figure the percentages on that.
Maybe. Maybe.
And both of us are running for clerk.
Yeah.
And it'd be enough there for me and you compared to what we're paying now to have a hell of a raise.
Yeah, but look at
Yeah.
when you convert that down,
Yeah.
so where's Washington at?
Keep it.
Yeah, I'm doing it again here.
20,000, what about two? So we dropped it out. 300 some people. Make it 25. Well, for example, 28. Down here in Decatur.
Think about 7 or 8.
26,000.
Is this the number of registered voters?
See, there's another, you know what I'm saying?
But you, Harrison. She wasn't bad money.
Yeah, even if you have the mowing, I think you still got all this other stuff.
Everything.
Somebody's gotta take
Oh,
care
yeah,
of.
yeah.
Which is human nature.
It is.
The trouble
Somebody's gonna
is,
supervise.
our bank account
That's the thing.
can't go around enough.
Well, and it's public money that you have to be
Yeah.
responsible for. Yeah.
That's why you mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
Breakfast this morning? No, I didn't. No,
That way you're shaking like a dog shit pea seeds earlier?
do what?
Yeah, you was over there shaking. I thought you drank too much coffee or something.
That's all I live on.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'll be in the bathroom constantly if I done that.
Oh, you get used to it.
We're going to the bathroom?
Well, and Chase and Jackson. Yeah. Jackson. Yeah. An hour and a half early. I said, it's an hour and a half.
That's why, yeah, everything that comes up.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
But.
Oh, the fun of youth, right?
You gotta find what shows, but I really don't wish I was that young again.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Do your thing.
I don't see what you're doing.
Oh. So this is what she makes now. Okay. Right here. So, 45. 45,000. That's what she's making now. Okay. 50? Yeah.
Right.
45, 930 plus 10%. I just guessed it. You know, like.
But how would you figure? The actual percentage?
Oh. You can do this. You can do 50.
Oh, 526.
And you just guess, like, well, what if she minus 6%? You would subtract 6% of that, that'd be 47,491. Well, that doesn't match, but
Right.
it's more than that, so you know it's a higher number. Or, let's do this. What is it, 55, 23?
526.
They round it up to 11 because of the cents, but that would give you, then do times 100 for the percent, so that's basically, you're looking at 10%. They would look at 11 based on the cents. But, let's say you win 50,000. They do. That's 60, so 57, so you just, and do 7% of the difference, so it's less than that, so.
This is gonna be a good one right here.
And then you go plus 10%, so you should, 7, you still, less than.
Cheryl's out of the office on Monday.
Let's do this, 45, 930. 90%. The whole number divided by the new number.
That's what I said.
So she's, so that gives you your 10%. Let's do this one. Let's do this one.
I go 523.
No, let's do this one. The second one, what's that? 39,
268.
what's the number?
48, 262.
What's what's her name, the public defender, like
19%.
Myra?
8 like 10 pounds of food before I came, still up,
Wonder why it ain't coming up.
What's the next one? Is there something that was more than that? What's the third one down?
37, 569.
37.
37, 569.
Ah, there it is.
45, 557.
18, 19, 20. 20 something.
You won't be discouraged when we take you over
You,
years.
you're, had this.
Because you divide by 6, and you're really discouraged. Probably you had to talk to somebody who told you
What's his?
to make yours higher.
What's your red?
I thought you were gonna say that's gonna be. Yeah, sure.
Good luck. We didn't have no luck
D2.
either. Yeah, but look at all these.
Right.
50.
What's that, our community service hours?
36, 845.
Coolies, they have a good one at you. Is it?
His numbers are getting way up. Our income ain't keeping up with that. So he's right now at 41. 15. 55, bring me a paper, will you?
I will.
I will, I'll take it. I don't be a pusher. I don't wanna push cars.
Well, that's a, the bakery or the, really?
One of the H&R employees fell from the ceiling and the coal was hanging through Michael's electrical wires. So my husband reaches down to try to rescue this kid, he's the one who falls through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, broke 2 ribs, had a staph IUL. That's been 7 years ago. He didn't manage it.
Did you get your numbers?
My number. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, no wonder.
close.
Veterans office is gonna be here at 10:30. Brent can't make it.
Okay.
Oh, you gonna do that? Or they, when they come? I don't even, yeah, that's one.
That's the only thing after lunch.
Need somebody to talk to, Ron?
I have my equipment to talk to and threaten, bodily harm.
Surely get Phil to talk to you.
Well, or Phil.
Taking it all in. I love it, Phil. Living the dream.
Veterans will be on page 20.
Which one?
Page 20.
Oh, we got backtrack.
Yeah, sheriff can't really do it like it quick enough. you doing?
Go.
See, you ain't got a boot on no more.
Yeah. That was, 5 days of it, you know what, 5 or 6 days. Bad times.
Thanks, sir.
Morning, sir. I think I might have enough copies this year. Last year, I didn't know there was this many people.
Thank you.
Sir? Yes, sir. What this is the DDH report. The 24 fiscal year should already be out, but with everything going on with the government, everything's.
Hang on just a second. Let me get everybody
Oh,
back in
sorry.
here. No, you're fine. They got a couple minutes.
I'm about getting ready to find out.
All right, I think if we got everybody back in the room. We're gonna skip over to the Veterans Office. It's on page 20 in your books. Since we're running a little ahead of time, we thought we'd go ahead and bring Andrew up. So, Andrew, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The thing I'm handing out to you guys, it's actually a year behind. The 24 fiscal year numbers are not officially out. The federal government, just because everything's been going on. But with last year's, fiscal year 23 was $9.9 million of what my office brings into this community, into this county. That compensation and pension, if you don't know what that is, compensation is for veterans. If something physically got damage to them, that they're getting paid by the federal government compensation. Now, there's people that fall into the pension. Pension is where you might not have service-connected disability, but you are low income or cannot work due to other things that would be maybe non-service connected, but because you're a veteran, the VA takes care of. So that is real dollars that comes into this community. So for the 24, which will come out probably after, now that we're past my being on the floor here, and I'll definitely send that out to everybody, the amount of money that's going to be brought in for 24. But like I said, just in the last 2 to 3 years that I've been here, it started out with like 7 million, then it went to 8, now it's went to 9, now it's going to be 10. So it's jumping tremendously. We're getting a lot of folks service connected, or if a veteran passes, we've been getting a lot of their spouses can pick up either a widow's pension or DIC is what it's called if you're service connected and pass away from that. But anyway, just kind of show you what the kind of stuff that we're doing. And now we're doing an outreach thing. Saturday of this week, we're going to be over at the high school. There's a resource fair that they're putting on CASA, and I think the hospital's involved. There's supposed to be like 79 vendors. It's a free thing open to the public. Of course, it's going to be veteran centered as far as what we're going to have set up there. But just to let you know that we are doing lots of stuff. The runs for the year, I didn't get the numbers crunched, but we've made more runs right now this year than we did this time last year, as far as taking folks to their appointments and stuff. You guys see the 2 federally funded vehicles that are set across town. So I just want to kind of give, some people don't really know what all we do, and some of the folks that might not have been here last year or whatever. But just like I said, we just try to do everything we can for not only our veterans, but the families of these folks. Obviously, we've lost some, we lose some every year, so we're helping take care of some of the funeral arrangements on the backside, the part that the government takes care of. And so, like I said, we try not to say no, we try not to turn down anybody for a ride, and I try to get people in the office as soon as we can. We are having to start taking some appointments just because I've been getting a little bit busier with everything that's going on. But anyway, as far as I just want to let folks know what we do, the ones that didn't know what we did. So, you got any questions for me on anything?
Just looking at your budget there,
Yeah, but on the budget line, I kept the part-time position. I got a real good increase last year, so I didn't think, I thought it'd be fair to leave that the same. I do pretty good budgeting my expenses. Some of that comes from 30 years of working for the federal government. Stuff you gotta make do with what you got. So that's why I try not to ask for any more than what we really need. And I think we're tracking pretty good. I think we're gonna use all of our driver money. But like I said, I have other lines that we can, I got ahead purchasing the flags and stuff, I told some of y'all before. So it helps that money push on down the line so I don't have to ask for more. The only thing I have asked for is an increase in salary. Last year I had asked for $10,000, and then it got approved for the whatever the percentage, it come out to about $3,000. So the only thing I've changed is, since I got part of what we asked for last year, I was just asking for $5,000 is what I'm asking for, and keeping all the other lines the same. Like I said, we're doing good with all of our equipment and our flag inventory and stuff like that. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game, and so that's where I'm at.
okay. Anybody have any questions for Andrew?
So where all do you drive to? Are you going to the new hospital?
Sir?
Are you going to the new hospital?
Yeah, when it opens, yeah. The primary is Zorn Avenue, that's where the VA hospital is at. They also run to New Albany, there's a clinic there. Scottsburg, there's a clinic there. We run to Scottsburg, we have two veterans that are on dialysis that the VA pays for, and it's the Scottsburg dialysis. Unfortunately, the one in Salem closed. That we're taking a pretty good hit there, but we got to take care of these guys. This dialysis is no joke. VA also pays for some other community care, is what the term is. I got a guy that goes to Brown Cancer to take treatments. We got a guy that goes, there's several places on the Indiana side that's not at the VA facility, but it's VA paid for. So yeah, well, we got a guy that goes to Charlestown all the time for like a pain clinic thing. But it's all, the rule is for using them federal vans is this has to be a VA paid for appointment. So like I said, the term is called community care. So if it's something that the VA doesn't have a specialist available, that's why they push them out to that to community care.
So, to use a van, what are the requirements for that? You know, they can't drive or?
Oh, the van program is set up where it's just kind of like, if you don't drive in Louisville, if you don't trust yourself driving, because some people get nervous, anxious. Sometimes you're going for a certain procedure or whatever that, if
Can't drive yourself.
they can't drive themselves, and we do a letter. There's a letter if a spouse has to go. I reach out to the Scottsburg clinic. I have a girl over there I know, and a spouse can ride with that veteran, and they're authorized to. And well, we have one lady that's blind. She's legally blind, and so she has a rider that goes with her.
So do you pick them up at their house or?
Yeah, we can. The ones that either they don't drive at all or they whatever. Yeah, they go to the ride will start. The drivers have to do the paperwork, setting at the sheriff's station, and it's to get to their house and to the appointment and then back, a round trip. So the run starts and ends at the sheriff's department, no matter what. Now we have some veterans that drive in town, So what they'll do is they'll meet at the sheriff's department, so every now and then you'll see extra vehicles over there, that's what that is. But yeah.
So they're federal vehicles, but we pay the fuel, or how's the mileage?
The only thing, what we're doing is, paying a stipend to the driver.
Okay,
The car itself costs us nothing.
okay.
The thing going across the bridge, that's taken care of. There's a federal gas card, credit card. When they need service or new tires, there's a credit card for that. The only thing I have to show, and I have all that in my office, is all the runs. Because there's a daily log for every run, and then that is transport onto a monthly log, and then we turn in monthly that log, the gas receipts, and that kind of stuff. I have to do all that. You know, we just do that as part of our service or whatever.
So that's technically more of a driver fee, not really a mileage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have to do what that.
No, you're fine, I just, yeah.
That line's
I
always
didn't,
been
I'm
called.
new, so I didn't know.
Yeah. And it got up the first year I was here, I guess, because it was, I got here in late 22, and that 40,000 is what they had, and then it got up to 50. And we've been doing pretty good, but it's just, we've just making so many runs.
Right.
But I, like I said, what I'm gonna do is not ask for any more, just what I have. I'm gonna have to have, Michelle move some monies. I'm gonna wait until closer to, see where we're at. But yeah, like I said, I meant to have the numbers of the runs, because it's crazy what we're doing. There's certain days, every now and then there's a day that I'll make a run, or Ricky will make a run, the other guy working in there. 'Cause we had a situation the other day, I think we moved 11 veterans in one day. That's using both of the federal cars. I've got 2 private drivers. I used my little county car, and Rick used, the assessor's county car. And so everybody was covered. He and I would have been covered if something would have happened in the county vehicles. But, anyway, like I said, there's days where it's just crazy, and I try not to say no. We try not to turn anybody away. There's times that, having to come in early or stay late or whatever. Go to like the nursing home or to somebody's home that can't get out. So yeah, there's some dark days. This job is pretty. There's a lot of good days and a lot of talking and reminiscing with some of these old fellers talking military talk. But yeah, there's a lot of dark days, and it's you just got to take the good with the bad.
Did they make an appointment with you
I like that too. Now, a lot of people try to roll in on us.
with doctor appointments?
What's that?
Do people make appointments with you, tell you what their appointment schedule is?
Yeah, that's part of the, kind of the side deal of this job is, when that phone rings, somebody will call and say, hey, I got an appointment tomorrow, or I got an appointment next week, or whatever. They call us with their appointments, and I have a driver appointment book, and I have an in-office for appointments coming to see me. So that's why I was confused what you said, but yeah, they'll call us, and I've got some, what I call, repeat offenders or whatever, because I can check, I got one guy, he just wants a free ride to Louisville to hang out at the VA for some reason. So we have a phone number we can call to verify that it is a VA appointment, because especially if it's at one of them oddball locations, we always try to verify. Now the cancer center, I know that guy, he's been going there, but like if we get somebody new, we'll pick up a new rider. Or if somebody moves into town, we've had several, believe it or not, as many people we've had pass away. I've had new folks that weren't from here moving into Washington County, and they're not really coming to see me, they're coming up here to do something with their taxes, and they'll see my door, and everybody just kind of stops, like, what do you do? Like, what's to say, So we get people registered for their property, the ones that are disabled for their property taxes or whatever, or the license plates, the disabled license plates or whatever. So it's a wide range of, I still get stuff that stumps me when somebody calls me something we don't normally do. I just have to Google it to see what program they're talking about or wherever the case is. But yeah, we definitely do a wide range of services.
Do you do increase in wintertime? It's roads.
See,
More people do it in wintertime with bad roads or anything.
no, not really. Driving to appointments to the hospitals and stuff like that, I don't see that it increases. If anything, a lot of people don't like to get out when it's bad weather. I know my foot traffic slows down when it's bad weather, so we can get office stuff done, you know. We're still trying to scan everything. I'm still trying to, you're never gonna be paperless, but we're trying to at least get more electronic, documents, and that's what we're working on right now. I'm getting pretty close to being done with my file cabinet, and Rick's got a little bit left on his, but we're getting there. So eventually we'll be, getting rid of some file cabinets and stuff, kind of make the place look a little neater and cleaner. Because like I said, just over the years, you know, when you don't purge, you just keep growing. You just keep growing. Now, I've got 2 file cabinets full of Spanish American War veterans. It's sitting over in the Williams building. I haven't decided exactly how I'm gonna tackle that, because most of that paper, you can't just run through a scanner. It's too thin, is that. So what I'd have to do, which I don't wanna do, make a copy of that, then scan it, and then shred everything. That seems like a little waste of money, so I may just let that dog lie. I've got a Rolodex, I know who's there, so if a long lost family member ever shows up, I have access to that. So I'm thinking about leaving that over there. It's in a locked area, it's in I guess climate control over there. It's in one of the drywall rooms. And so, I might have to leave that project might be more than what I can afford.
Do you need another power cabinet?
No. I'm trying to get rid of them. We got most of them empty. We're trying to get them all emptied.
We are too.
So, but yeah, like I said, that's all good questions. Like I said, we try to do whatever we can for anybody. And sometimes it's a stretch. Somebody will call about, you know, it's like, well, that benefit's really not for you, you know. And I hate always telling them bad news, but a lot of times we see the news before they do, because electronically I can see it, and it's usually like 10 days before it's mailed to them, a decision, and I always dread the ones where they get turned down, or, you know, they just didn't get what they think they deserve. We're the front line to have to explain that I don't work for the VA, that I work for you all, you know, because a lot of times somebody gets there, come there mad, and you people, like, whoa, I don't work for the federal government anymore. I said, you can't say you people. So, you know, sometimes I got to set people straight, or talk them off the ledge, or a lot of times they come in just mad as a hornet. And, you know, we try to calm them down, try to figure out what's going on with the claim or whatever. Because paperwork will come and be 15, 17 pages and usually on the first line it tells you what they need, you know. So a lot of times it's just people, I guess, my wife will laugh at me, sometimes I'm the voice of reason, I guess, for these veterans, which she probably wouldn't agree with that. It's normal stuff, but I'm the voice of reason for a lot of our citizens that are veterans.
We definitely appreciate all your work.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Andrew on his budget? All right, if not, thank you, Andrew, appreciate it.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thanks for what you do. All right, moving ahead here. Looks like the sheriff is in the house, so Brent, if you want to come up, we'll head into your budget here. Page 54 in your book, 54 and 55, the first part of that.
Good morning.
Morning.
Get to feel better. You get to feel better.
Probably have not had a chance to check your emails this morning, but in the event that you did, you saw that I sent you a 2026 proposed budget for the Washington County Sheriff's Department. These are notes that I've prepared, typically do in the past, that goes through and explains several of the line items there within the budget. I did not go through I did not go through every line item in, the in the 1100 fund. I did not go through every particular line item. I tried to address the groups of employees there at the Sheriff's Department. The primary increase in my budget for 2026, my proposal, just like any other year, is going to be for salaries for the employees. I try to do a salary study every year for not for every employee up there, but for the groups such as the officers, the dispatchers, and the jailers. And I asked this year for jail commander board to help me with the jail, and then 911 director sergeant to help with the dispatchers, so we could kind of get an idea. And then I double check my figure with theirs, so we try to get a pretty good idea of what the salaries are for those positions. I am not a big fan of giving across the board raises. It's easier to just do that, but I feel like it would be beneficial for the county to do a salary study for the county employees to find out where you truly stand, so that you can triage your salaries for your employees and put more towards where the bigger problems lie. Because some of the employees at the Sheriff's Department are receiving a fair or pretty close to a fair wage currently, and there are others at the department that are quite a bit under their average in the surrounding counties around us. And what is the average starting salary? Going down through here, basically, when it gets to the salaries for the employees, the percentages of raises is different depending on what group that you're looking at. Some of the raises were as low as about 2%, all the way up to like the jailers is a 13.5% increase for the jailers. The corrections officers, based on the salary study, the average starting salary for a corrections officer in surrounding counties in June of this year, throwing out the top and the bottom counties, is $42,736. Washington County correctional officers currently start at $40,392. That puts our corrections officers currently at about $2,344 below average for 2025. I'm asking for a 13.5% increase in the corrections officer salary for 2026 to make up for this shortfall, and then assuming that these other counties are going to get raises as well to still try to put us competitive with the jail. As you know, we continue to have a huge turnover problem in the jail. 20 corrections officers back there in the jail. 13 of those 20 corrections officers have less than 1 year on the department. Captain Ward just did the statistics for me yesterday, and the average jailer at the Sheriff's Department now over at the detention center has .945 years of service. So out of the 18 officers up there, not counting the jail lieutenant, we're less than a year of service average for everyone there. So for that reason, it's the reason that I've tried to give them a little more attention this year than in years past, to try to get that up to where we can stop having so much turnover in the jail. Because every time we have a turnover there, then that also affects our overtime, trying to cover these shifts while we're training new people to fill these spots. It's unfortunate, you know, the corrections officer job is a lot like the deputy jobs. They are a high stressful job. There's PTSD also that goes with the jail job back there in the jail. It's very difficult. You'd be surprised. Even recently we had one that we hired, lasted I think 5.5, 6 hours, and decided it wasn't for them, and they left. When we've had several that have worked just one day back there in the jail and decided this is not for me, and we leave. Going down to the overtime, vacation, comp, and holiday, the public safety fund, that seems to be one of my most difficult line items. And I know there's a lot of questions about overtime and why is the overtime so high. services, just to name a few. Inmates going to the hospital, doctor visits, sitting on inmates who have been hospitalized, and unfortunately, you know, all of the juvenile correction facilities in southern Indiana have closed, with the exception of Clark County, and they only have 10 beds. It's very rare that we can get juveniles locked up there. So anytime we get a court order to lock up a juvenile now, you're looking at a 4 to 5 hour round trip to take somebody to a detention center and drop them off, only to have to go back a day or two later to pick them up and bring them back. We are on track to have a shortfall with our overtime this year up there at the Sheriff's Department. It's not a surprise. We also have a pretty good turnover with our officers, as you know, and there's a pretty good turnover in dispatch as well, and those are all 3 positions. When I started doing some research on it, it's not uncommon. That's a problem that everybody has. And I recently attended the summer conference for the Indiana Sheriff's Association, and when they have a sheriff's talk on Thursday morning, all the sheriffs get a chance to talk about things, and everybody has the same problem. It just seems like with emergency services, it's very difficult to get people and to retain those people. There needs to be some thought put into down the road, things that we can do to try to retain these people and keep these people in those positions, rather than having constant turnover. As far as the 1170 fund goes.
Hey Brent, if I can stop you for a minute, the
Yes, sir.
overtime and comp, is that between the jail and your regular officer, or what does that encompass, I guess, in the overtime and comp?
Sure. I have one line item in my budget. Overtime comes out of that line item. Vacation time comes out of that line item.
But for which off, I mean.
It's for the entire department.
Okay, that's why.
That's dispatch, jail, officers.
Everybody.
Everybody comes
Okay.
out of that. And it also, comp time gets paid out of that. Holiday pay gets paid out of that. When someone leaves the department, they pay their time down, it all comes out of that. So it's very difficult to sort that stuff out, what exactly is overtime, what the overtime is costing us. I know that the county likes for us to try to flex our time. We do try to flex time at the department, but when you're short-staffed, it's very difficult to flex it. There's nobody to flex that with. And at one time, the county was actually buying back the holidays from the police officers at the end of the year if they didn't use them. They've stopped doing that, and so if an officer wants to take their time, which obviously, you know, if you don't take it, you lose it. They're not going to lose their holiday pay. So an officer wants to take a holiday, take off, chances are we're probably not going to have the staff to cover that. So then we have to ask somebody to work that shift. And now you're paying a guy time and a half to cover that shift that we just paid that guy straight time to take off. Not sure that's, you know, the way to go, but that's one way that we're addressing that also affects that overtime. And again, it's been an unusual year. You know, we had one inmate that got hospitalized up in Indianapolis. I got a set on that inmate. The inmate was there for 2 weeks. I got jail staff every 12 hours driving to Indianapolis, switching out and coming back. It was to the point that the gas guy even told us, you guys went through an enormous amount of gas here recently, what's going on? Well, we're driving police cars to Indianapolis every day, twice a day, swap out to set on that inmate. And so, again, those are things that happen that you don't normally happen, and we still have to deal with that. That I don't like it any more than anybody else does. There's level 1 trauma centers in Louisville, but our local hospital over here is Ascension St. Vincent out of Indianapolis, and we all know they want to try to keep people within their system, so they send them to Indianapolis, and that doesn't work for me. On that, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
On that 1170 fund, there were 16 line items there that I maintained. I kept them exactly the same as last year, or previous years prior to that. There were 7 items in this proposal that I needed to increase, where I felt like I needed to increase that I asked for. After meeting with Michelle and talking about a shortfall with the 911 and stuff, I was asked to look at my budget, see if there was anything that I could fix within that budget. I did go back and cut out 4 of those line items that I asked to increase. I asked to just take it back to the same thing as it was last year. So instead of increasing like the meals for inmates, I asked for an increase in that because we all go to the grocery store. We all know what the price of food is doing. But I had Jail Commander Ward give me the average Last year, we averaged 140 inmates a month up at the jail. Right now, we're averaging for 2025, 112. So I don't think we need that additional $10,000 that I asked for, so I cut that $10,000 out, and I'm asking for the 195,000 for meals for the inmates, just as we have for the last 2 years. We're gonna try to hold to that. One of the other line items was uniforms and clothing. I asked for a $500 increase in that line item. I've changed that back to the $9,500, and we will offset that with commissary money if we're having a shortfall, which we are. We're almost out of money in that line item now, and we've got 2 deputies that we recently hired that have to go be fitted for uniforms, and we're getting ready to hire another one. So there won't be enough money in there to cover that, but we'll take care of that with commissary funds. The IDAC repair contract. Unfortunately, the old radio equipment, we've had quite a few issues with it in the past year. That line item is almost out of money for the year, which is unusual. Normally, it's plenty of money for that. I asked for a $1,000 increase on that, and I've changed that back to the original $3,000 as it was last year. Kelly will give you an update here in a minute on the radio equipment. I think by replacing all of our radio equipment things, that should help out with that line item, and we should not need that increase. So we shaved $1,000 off that, put that back at $3,000. And then also on the fire alarm system, I asked for an additional $3,000 to be added to that line item for next year because the fire marshal's office came back in the spring. They inspected the jail, which has never been done since I've been sheriff. They found quite a few violations. We spent a lot of money trying to get those violations all corrected, get back in compliance, and we are in compliance now with the fire marshal's office. And so hopefully moving forward now, we will be able to get by with that amount of money. So instead of the 7 increases,
I think I had must have had a typo on that fire alarm system, because I had 4,000.
yes,
Is that correct?
that's what I was asking for, but I want to change that to 3,000.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood how much you were asking for.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 3,000 back to what it was for 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. There is something else to note here on the police retirement. At the time the budget the proposal was to be turned in, did not know what that amount was. The company had not notified us yet of that, so I put the same amount in there as last year, that $226,832. We have since received the paperwork from One America, and the recommended county contribution for 2026 is actually $256,050.
That's what we have.
So that dollar
Yeah,
amount.
you all got the corrected
Yeah.
amended budgets.
It's on the corrected amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that was something else there that was a pretty good increase that needed to be noted. You know, the equipment miscellaneous for cars, I'm asking to keep that line item the same as it's been this past 2 years. No increase for 2026. That was $10,000. That the approximate charge to equip a brand new police vehicle is about $10,000 per vehicle. I'm trying to replace 3 to 4 vehicles per year to rotate out the other patrol vehicles. There's 16 full-time officers with take-home cars. We have 1 full-time animal control officer, 1 full-time civil process server, 1 full-time jail administrator with a vehicle, and then a full-time maintenance vehicle. And then there's 4 other pool cars that we drive on a regular basis. The fuel money in the line item in that 1170 has been $95,000 for the last 3 years, and we've been able to keep from going in the red on that. I think we will be able to do that again. Part of the reason we've been able to do that is because of the openings that we have on the department. We've had a lot of police cars sitting up there as we've got openings. When a new officer gets hired, they're on a field officer with a field training officer for the first 8 weeks. They do not get a vehicle assigned to them until after that 8-week period of time. Then they get their own take-home car. So that actually saved us on our fuel budget. It has made it to where we were able to keep that within our budget there the last couple of years. I think we'll be able to do it again moving forward, at department, I basically, I'm asking to keep that line item the same as it's been for the last 3 years. As of August the 19th, 2025, the current balance in that line item is $196.49. We currently have 2 deputies at the academy right now in week 5. That will not be enough money. We will be in the red very well. I know we'll be in the red as soon as we pay their per diem that hasn't been paid to them. So what we are doing is we're going to use money from the continued education fund. Basically what that is when someone gets arrested or they receive a traffic citation, if they pay the ticket or if they found guilty or plead guilty, they pay the gift, they pay their fine, we're entitled to $4 of that. And we can claim that money, it goes into a fund, it's very specifically marked by the state what that money can be used for. It can be used for training for police officers or equipment. We've been pretty fortunate enough not to have to touch that money. We've kind of been leaving it there as a rainy day fund, but this year we're going to be in the red on the training, so in order to make up for that somewhere, we're taking money out of continued education to pay for this moving forward. The medical in that line item is another very difficult one. In the past, it's been $45,000 for the last 8 or 9 years, and we've always been able to stay within our budget on that. I think, as I've told you guys before, the overall health of our inmates is really gone downhill. A lot of these people, after being on the hardcore drugs for an extended period of time, when they come to jail, they've got one foot in their grave and the other foot in the jail, and so it's starting to eat us up with our medical expenses. Our quality correctional care, our health care provider, they have changed. They used to have a fund there that we paid money into, that the prescriptions and stuff would come out of it. They're not doing that anymore. They're making us just pay for the prescriptions straight up that we have to pay for. They always scrub our medical bills, and that's a great service to us. Because a lot of times they can scrub these bills down and get them to maybe a quarter of what they actually bill us for that we pay. And so it saves us a great deal of money. But also times are getting tough for quality correctional care as well. And now they want to share some of that profit that they're saving us. And so that if they save us $100, they want 12% of that now that they're billing us for. So that again is going to eat up some of our medical line item in our budget. And we currently have an inmate up there that the medication is $4,600 a month. There's only $45,000 in that line item to begin with, so you can see it's not going to take long for that medical budget to be gone. We don't always have inmates with those kind of medical issues, but we do, and I've been working very diligently with the prosecutor to try to get this case to trial and get it resolved so that we can move this individual to DOC so that they can pay for that. But unfortunately, it is what it is. We don't always have that kind of stuff that we do now that we're dealing with now. So. When you do get time to pull that email up, if you scroll down, I did put a salary study on there for the deputy positions, and you can see what the highest county is surrounding us, the lowest county. Washington County is actually 3rd on that list, where we're normally at the bottom. So Washington County deputies are not in dire straits like they have been in the past. And I have to thank the council for the raises and things that you've given our deputies to put us in a little bit better position. I did ask for the starting pay for a county deputy at $56,305. I did ask for that to have a 3.5% raise for 2026, just because you see every day they're negotiating things with these other police departments, and I want to continue to be competitive with these other departments to where that you can find some candidates to do the job. And then again, we have to try to work forward, trying to find things down on the back end side, the back end of things to try to retain these people once we get them. It's kind of like the jail commander was telling me. He said, our longevity that we pay is $60. It's been $60 for a while. Right now in the jail, that wouldn't cost you hardly anything. There's nobody there with any experience in the jail. That might be a way to kind of help try to retain some of your jail staff to bump your longevity up a little bit, to give them some incentive to stay. There's also a salary study on there for the corrections officers, and you can see what the top is, what the bottom is. And Washington County jailers are 3rd from the bottom out of the 9 counties, us counting the 8 that surround us. And there's also a list on there. I've included the list of the current corrections officers, their hire date, and how long they've been there at the sheriff's department. I think everybody knows that the biggest liability we have out there at the sheriff's department would be the jail. And we need to focus on trying to retain those people and getting those people trained to reduce the liabilities that we face here at the sheriff's department, so that maybe the county can get better quotes for liability insurance coverage. I think sometimes people don't know what the jail staff does, or the dispatchers do, or some of the people at the sheriff's department. And again, you know, we're kind of different than anybody else. We're really not like any of the other county departments, except maybe similar to the ambulance department, and they're pretty close to us in what they do, because they, unfortunately, you know, they don't know what they're gonna be doing from 1 minute to the next either. You know, a lot of the other officers, you know what you're doing, you got so many services that you provide every day. You know what you're gonna be doing, you work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. But unfortunately, in our business, we're a 24/7 business, and people are gonna work 24/7, they gotta work nights, they gotta work weekends, those fluctuating schedules. Some of our people work 8-hour schedules, some people work 10, some people work 12, and it just depends. But all of those things take tolls on people's health and their mental health. And that's one of the things that we've really been trying to focus on at the Indiana Sheriff's Association this last couple of years, is the mental health of your people at the Sheriff's Department and things. Corrections officers are required to have 16 hours of training every year. They are in the process of changing that. I think it's going to go to 20 hours. So on top of everything else, you know, they're going to have that training. We're going to have to look at probably next year putting in a separate line item in the budget just for training for the jail staff, so that we can get all that taken care of. The corrections officers, they say they face a high rate of PTSD, suicide, and significant workplace hazards. Additionally, corrections officer suicide rate is twice that of police officers and the general public. Some agencies experience annual officer turnover rates in the jail of 20 to 30%, with 38% of staff leaving the first year. When you get to talking about dispatchers in your dispatch center, dispatchers face high stress environments and are at risk for PTSD, with studies showing rates comparable to police officers. The work demands strong decision-making, communications, and multitasking skills. Dispatchers often deal with life and death situations, which contribute to high-pressure work environment. Exposure to critical incidents, cumulative stress, and hearing distressing calls can have a lasting impact on dispatchers' mental well-being. Some studies have shown that 18 to 24% of 911 dispatchers exhibit symptoms of PTSD at a rate similar to that of a police officer. Dispatching is a profession with high turnover rates, comparable to EMTs and paramedics, due to factors like burnout, pay, scheduling, and exposure to critical incidents. It says that emergency dispatchers consistently rank among the top 10 industries with the highest turnover rates. The constant exposure to trauma, high stress situations, and long irregular hours can significantly impact dispatchers, officers, and correction officers' mental and emotional well-being, affecting their relationships. They say at that sheriff's office this summer that police officers, most of them, will have a 20 to 25-year career. And during that 20 to 25-year career, they will experience 500 to 600 traumatic experiences over that career. And if you think about it, the dispatchers are experiencing a lot of those same traumatic experiences that the officers do, because they receive the telephone call that sends the police officer to that. And there's a lot of things that they get subject to on the phone that creates issues for them as well. And there's a lot of other emergency services out there that can't necessarily do their job at times today until law enforcement's there. As you know, that it's been in the news where there were some firemen that were shot responding to a fire. Sometimes the deputies have to go and deal with people that are trying to fight the firemen that are there to try to put out the fire and help somebody. Emergency detention orders are a big thing that we face, and those are almost on a daily basis now. And a lot of times we have to make the scene safe before the EMTs can get there to deal with these people that are suicidal. So our stuff goes a lot hand in hand with emergency services, with the other different agencies as well. And I just wanted you all to keep that in the back of your mind, that we're something different than everybody else. And I remember coming here a couple months ago, when your financial advisor Darren was here, and one thing that I took away from what he said, there's a lot of things that we don't know about 2027. And I understand that there's gonna be a lot of tough decisions that have to be made. You guys as the county council and the commissioners, you got a lot of tough decisions to make. And I hope that you guys can make those the right decisions that we need to make. And Darren also said that, you know, you can't forget about public safety. At the end of the day, if you're having a medical emergency, you wanna make sure that an ambulance is gonna come to your house. And if you have a fire at your house, you wanna make sure there's a fire department that's gonna come. Or if you would happen to need the police, you wanna make sure that the police are gonna be there. So, again, I just ask that we, give us some consideration on the raises and things that we've asked for to try to help keep people in these jobs, so that we can try to actually retain some of the people that we do have, that we invest our money in. It'd be nice to get more out of these people. I'm sure there's probably some questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Brent on any of his budgets there?
Brent, how are you making your selection of your automobiles, your cars?
To be honest with you, I've been trying to be fair about it, and I've been trying to go back and forth. I buy a couple from John Jones, and I buy a couple from Eddie Gilstraps, and I buy a couple from John Jones, and I buy a couple from Eddie Gilstraps.
What's the selection of the type of car you're buying?
Well,
How do you base
that is based on what my maintenance guy tells me. And what I mean by that is Tom, my maintenance guy, a lot of people have no idea just how much money he saves us. He does most of the mechanic work on our police vehicles, and he literally saves us thousands of dollars by working on those vehicles. And I let Tom help me make those decisions. He tells me what I need to stay away from. And some of these police vehicles are very problematic, and they're broke down a lot. It's hard to get parts for them and things, and so I let Tom have a big influence in how we're deciding on what police vehicles that we go with.
One we used to, back in my day earlier, everything was a set car.
Yes.
Basically, it was bare minimum. And a lot of times we get jumped, a lot of times while we're buying, don't take this the wrong way, but while we're buying a certain type of car, is it the most beneficial car to the police?
I'm trying to buy vehicles for the police department that I feel like we need in order to do the job, and that they will be the most efficient vehicle that won't eat us up in maintenance. Because some of these vehicles, again, they're really starting to eat us up in maintenance, and when they go down, they're sitting at the repair shops, or they're sitting at the body shops, sometimes for weeks, waiting on parts to come in and things. And as a police agency, I don't have that kind of time to wait for those things.
Let me ask you, how can it be such different if one vehicle is the best vehicle? Well, we have 14 different body styles and all this. I'm just.
Well, some of them go better in the snow. Some of them operate differently in the summertime, you know, in pursuits, or better pursuit-rated vehicle. I typically try to get the ones that get better fuel mileage, versus the ones that get less, and so, you know, and try to be diversified in our vehicles and stuff. I don't think it's, I'll be honest with you, I don't think there is one vehicle that's the top-rated police vehicle out there that's what I want to make my whole fleet out of. And because if that was the case, we would probably do something with, you know, we'd be fine if we're spending a lot more money on vehicles, what we'd be doing. Because again, I do look at that, look at the cost of the vehicles, and I do try to get some of the, you know, the Dodge Chargers are obviously the cheaper police vehicles, but they seem to, they're better pursuit-rated vehicle in my opinion, and they hold up better than the Durangos do. The Durangos are costing us a lot of money. Even the state police tried to go with Durangos and had a lot of issues with them and things. And I don't know what the manufacturer's going to do about that, but you know, and you've got some departments that are even going to Jeeps now and different things. I don't know that that's the route I want to go at this point in time, but I do look at the price of the vehicles and things. Like I said, they take a lot of things into consideration. Again, I think we need fuel-efficient cars that we can get our best mileage out of, and I need stuff that'll get around. You know, Washington County is a large county. It's like the 7th largest in the state land-wise, and And these guys put a lot of miles on these cars too. It's something else you have to take a look at. I try to track all of our vehicles and see how many miles a year are getting put on them, and see how long these vehicles are lasting, you know, which ones can we get the most mileage out of, and if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, we get jumped all the time, while we're driving Suburbans and all this. And now I'm seeing a lot of pickups.
Yes.
Is that right?
There's a lot of police departments that are going to pick up trucks. And I think that may be, some places it maybe is a matter of personal preference. Some sheriffs say that in the wintertime, obviously they get around better, four-wheel drive. Kind of like Brad Noggle, our detective, was out on Walnut Ridge back at Gravel Lane in his Dodge Charger. Kind of hard to get out there in the wintertime. And if I need him, he needs to get out. So that's why when I recently upgraded my vehicle, I handed my truck down to Detective Noggle, and he was happy to get it, because now he's got a four-wheel drive truck that he can get to work in if he needs to, you know, if we have snow. And we've been pretty fortunate the last couple of winters. They've not been that bad, thank goodness.
How many people do you have to worry about as far as employees? Numbers, can you give me a number?
54.
How many?
Roughly 54 employees at the sheriff's department. Some of those are part-time people.
That's amazing.
There's 20 jailers back in the jail, there's 12 dispatchers, and they got 16 police officers when we're full staff. And then you've got your administrative support staff, you know, your maintenance, bookkeeper, cook, and office manager, those kind of things.
I'm amazed, and I'm sure the others are, at the amount of concern and work that you actually put in it. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
That's a lot of stress.
It is, and I've always said that sheriff's department is like a giant iceberg, and it's actually multiple icebergs, because the jail in and of itself is a giant iceberg, and then dispatch is a separate iceberg, and the road is an iceberg. And thank goodness I've got people, you know, in good places. I've got one of the best jail commanders I think we've ever had. He's doing some great things back in the jail. I think we're moving forward back there in dispatch. I've got Kelly Sergeant there running the dispatch center, and I try to let these people, I don't think it's appropriate necessarily for the sheriff to be a micromanager and micromanage those things. If you put these people in the right positions, then you shouldn't have to. And I try to let them do those things so I can try to focus on other things and not spend all of my time just on the road or something like that. But there's plenty of fires that's got to be put out every day, and you just got to kind of bounce around and try to do that. And it is very time consuming, very stressful.
And a lot of times, a lot of thankless
Yes, sir.
work. Yeah, but we appreciate it.
Well, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I'm a taxpayer too. I'm not just the sheriff. I do try to, believe it or not, I do try to watch my budget. I do try to get money back at the end of the year. I don't zero my line items out, because I think that's the thing to do. And I think if you talk to some of the employees out there, they would tell you that Brett's pretty tight. He's a tightwad, you know, for most things. But again, I try to run it like a business, like I would if it were my own business, and try to be responsible.
Are you hearing anything on juvenile? Bring back juvenile to where we don't have to make such long runs?
I haven't heard of anything anywhere, but boy, that would be great if somebody could do that, would open up a juvenile detention facility somewhere. Because again, we're taking them to Terre Haute, we're taking them to Lawrenceburg, we're taking them to Johnson County. It's very rare that Clark County will allow us to bring one down there, but we're usually jumping up and down, excited when they do allow us to bring one down there, because again, you know, that creates staffing issues for me, because typically the jail staff are the ones doing our transports for those juveniles. And if you have to take somebody out of the jail, we have to have a minimum of 3 jailers on duty back there in the jail, and if there's 4 scheduled per shift, well, if somebody takes off with that juvenile, they're gonna be gone for 4 to 5 hours, and now let's say an inmate has to go to the hospital or something, now you gotta call somebody in, you're paying somebody overtime. So, staffing issues, it's a juggle, so try to juggle all of that, and again, try to stay within your things, and the supervisors, they all know these things, you know, they work very diligently to try to manage this overtime, because again, that overtime is a beast, and I don't know if it would be easier if that stuff was separated out, you know, into individual line items or something to be able to track that stuff. But, you know, and even like with the training back there in the jail, they would love to have more training, and I would love to have more training back there, but, we tried very good just to get the minimum amount of training in to meet the state requirements, and that's about as good as we can get with, because otherwise, you're gonna be spending a whole lot more money in overtime.
I was asked a couple of weeks ago from somebody from the governor's office, would you be willing to store illegals in jail?
Well, we have the bed space to do it. The question is, do you have the staffing to do it? And that's where we may or may not have the people in order to house ICE inmates. If that's what you're asking for. Like I said, I think we've definitely got the beds. Prior to COVID, we were running 215 inmates in there. Like I said, last year's average, the 2 years ago, the average, I think, was like 170, last year 140, and now we're at 112 this year. The numbers are down. I can't explain why the numbers necessarily are down. I will say this, most of you, I think, know that the Indiana Department of Corrections ran out of money last year. They owe Washington County $134,000 and some change. As luck would have it, today is my annual inspection. The state jail inspector's at the jail today inspecting, and we talked about that. And Tony might like to see my check sometime soon.
Yeah.
The county would love to have that, and he says they are in the process of paying people, and I do know that they have started paying the bills, because the Sheriff's Association recently sent an email out to every sheriff wanting to know, do they owe you money and how much? Some counties are over $1 million that they owe. Jerry Gooden in Scott County has said pretty good. He says they're even Steven with Steve Bush in Floyd County says they're even Steven. I'd like them to get even Steven with us, but they still have an overcrowding problem at the state prisons too. But now that they owe money, they have been a little bit faster at taking these inmates. Used to be at one time when somebody was found guilty or they pled, once we got their abstract, we could load them up in a police car anytime we wanted, just drive them to prison and dump them off. But you can't do that anymore because they're overcrowded. And they basically tell us when we can bring them up there now. We send the abstract to the prison and they'll call us and say, hey, on this date, bring this inmate or bring these 2 inmates. And so we try to get them there as fast as we can. Because again, some people have asked me about that. The state pays us $37.50 a day to house these people. And I think the Sheriff's Association, with the recent study they did, found out that daily expense for housing is probably closer to $50 a day versus $37.50 a day. And so it's not really to our advantage to be housing these people. I just assume them take them and house them.
When they talk, they was gonna raise that to 62.
There's been some talk about it, yes.
All right. Doing anything about it?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything through the Sheriff's Association recently about whether that's gonna happen or not.
Is there truth to the rumor that they're being kept at Atterbury now?
Oh, I don't know that. I have not heard that.
That was a rumor I had heard. I didn't know if that was true or not.
But they're looking to put these ICE detainees in places and things like that. And yes, we have the beds. It's, you know, do you have the staffing to deal with it? You know, you start bringing a bunch of them in there, I'm not sure that I've got the staff to be able to deal with that.
Okay. Any other budget questions for Brent?
I do have one. If you could break that overtime comp holiday down by department, by how much is comp time, how much is holiday, and how much is actually overtime? Because at that kind of number, you could actually look at hiring more people and trying to bring that number down. I mean, it's doubled in the last 10 years, and it's getting out of hand, in my opinion. So we gotta figure out a way to get that number down.
It's definitely a problem, and I don't know, that's maybe a question answered by Michelle as to how easy that would be to break that down and separate that out.
It could probably be done, but I can tell you the jump this year happened because we had to roll the 911 overtime over into public safety.
Yes.
Because the 911 fund is gonna be short. So we had to roll that over into the public safety. So Brent's overtime is actually 45,000 more than what he originally asked for. But due to budgets. We had to amend those budgets.
Okay. Any other?
That gets back to retention, don't it? Keeping people to keep your employees where you don't have to pay all that overtime.
That would be helpful, yes, because every time somebody quits, and you gotta train new people, it puts you short. That just adds to the already the overtime of things that we don't have much control over, like the transports and the inmates and things. You know, you can hope for a good year where you don't have hospitalizations and things like that. And it doesn't happen like that all the time. I mean, that's the first time we've had an inmate go to Indianapolis for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that doesn't happen all the time.
Right. Okay, well, if there's no other budget questions for Brent at this time, if we need you, we will get back a hold of you. But thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See what we can do from here.
Thanks, Brent.
Thank you, Brent.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
All right, moving right along here, Kelly, 911, excuse me, statewide 911, yep. Morning.
Good morning.
Page 58, council, in your book.
Just going real quick, I'm gonna expand on some things that, the sheriff has said, and he told us I was gonna give you an update of where we're at on, our radio and our 911 system upgrades. And there's some information here with some visuals of kind of like what we have going on right now.
Look at that, Bill, it's needed, right?
Thank you, sir.
You won't believe how much I cleaned that place up, but anyway.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Last year I was short, this year I have
Oh, he already, he did.
You gave me one? Excellent. Thank you. Okay, yeah, before we get into any budget things, as promised, and as the sheriff said, I'm gonna give you a real quick update on where we're at with our 911 integration and replacement of our radios and the install. The install and for the integration for the 911 was completed on August the 5th, so just a couple of weeks ago. As they were doing the migration and the installation, they detected a possible issue with fiber communications for the 911 system. That goes through in digital space in Fort Wayne. So, now this is just what they did what they noticed when they did a system check, right? And it was an area of concern. So Frontier came in and they were checking the connections from Washington County to Indianapolis, and then they had to turn around again and check the connection from Indianapolis to Fort Wayne. They don't know what they found, and until this point, they don't know that there is a problem, so there's a little bit of conflicting stories there if there is a communication glitch or communication error. We haven't experienced anything as of yet, okay? Even if we do, we have a primary and we have a secondary. If the primary goes down, the secondary picks up with no interruption in service. We still get our recordings and everything, so it's business as usual with that. All right, so, but again, you know, I want to say thank you to the council, to the commissioners for granting me access to the funds to upgrade this equipment. It was, like I said, 25 years plus, and had far exceeded its shelf life. The radios, according to ECS, are the ones that are going to be doing the installs. The new radio installation is scheduled to begin between the 2nd and the 3rd week of September. Quite a bit of the radio components are already on site up at ECS, but they have to configure them and then they have to program them, all right? And then once they finish the configuration and the programming, then they're going to come down and they're going to do the install. As they do the install, they're going to do it one position at a time, so we're not going to lose radio communications with our officers, with first responders, with surrounding agencies or anything like that. We're also going to try to integrate an interface with our 800 megahertz radio, so that way that gives us unabated communications with ISP, with DNR, and with those agencies that do use 800 megahertz, and it's easier for them to communicate with us as opposed to the sheriff having to come and find VHF radios to give to these new officers and the new agencies and everything so they can communicate with us on our channel, right? So, if you'll look at on the very first page, the 911 recording system that was replaced, they came in and they put in a floor stand, and everything you see there is, I mean, it's brand new. I watched them take it out of the plastic, and I oversaw the installation and how they wired everything up. What they actually did in the dispatch center is really minimal. You really can't see it on face value because it was done more behind the consoles and there's more things and stuff electronics wise. We were able to get an increase on the size of our monitors. I'm going to show you that. They are, it's a 24-inch diagonal. It's touchscreen, easy, much easier user interface because the way that the old monitors were, they were 15-inch and you really had to squint, and if you're half blind in one eye and deaf in the other one, it's really hard to see. So with that, the graphics on it are much better, it's clearer, so it's easier. We're also creating an interface on it so it can actually go wireless with the headsets, so that way they're not tethered to the consoles. So those options are in, but to save a little bit of money, I didn't opt for that at this time, and we can maybe phase it in as funds permit. On the third page of the graphics, you're going to see this is where there are the radios, where they are right now. You have 2 racks of radios, and in the middle you have all of our IT stuff and Frontier things that Bill uses our IT rack. So when they come in and they do the radio install, they're actually going to consolidate everything to make everything just a little bit better, have it run a little bit better, have all of our equipment in one particular area, so that way we're not crossing over and you don't have that great big long line of blue and yellow spaghetti that's right in the middle there. So it's going to kind of, make that a little bit neater. Now, I want to draw your attention to the lower left corner of that picture. You see 2 little machines that got little TV screens on them. Those are the Eventide, and they are our recording system that records our calls and our radio traffic. The one on the top is our primary, and the one on the bottom is a backup or secondary. The primary is fairly new, but it has gone into complete failure. Okay, it does not work at all. So they've had to order a new circuit board, a new motherboard for it. The parts are on order. It will be here in a timely fashion. They're going to get replaced. In the meantime, the older model there on the bottom that is serving as backup, that is working and is functioning properly. We're not missing any recordings on calls, so everything is coming through the way it's supposed to come. Okay, so knock on wood, everything's good to go with that.
When do they expect to have that
Any
fixed?
questions on the install or anything, timelines?
When do they expect to fix the top machine here?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
When do they expect to fix the top machine? The one that just went.
The parts are on order, and when they come in, they have to actually be manufactured, so I guess they're somewhere over in China right now being made. All right, so whenever they get made and they get sent, then ECS, they have a technician that's going to come out and they're going to replace it. So basically, that little TV screen that you see on the top is held by 4 screws. They undo the screws, you can pull it back, and you have access to all the circuitry in there, and then they'll be able to, it's basically just a plug and play. All right, to my understanding, the way that it was explained to me. So that's, we're looking at, hopefully, if we're fortunate, right around the same time that they're going to do the radio install. And I kind of see that it would probably make sense. They can just do everything all at once because these guys are having to come from Bloomington to do the install. That's where they're based out of. So that's how they're going to service us. So hopefully, within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
But you said the backup's working, so we're not.
Backup is working right now, which is really, it's ironic because the new one is the one that failed on us, and the old one is the one that's actually keep on driving on. So now, as far as the radio equipment, that's where we're at right now. And then I want to go ahead and take just a few minutes, and I want to talk about the budget. And I submitted my proposal for the year, and I was actually notified, that there were some things that was going on with my budget, and I was operating in the red, or operating in the deficit, right? And it kind of made me scratch my head, because I'm wondering where they got this money, because I'm being as fiscally responsible as I can. And as I met with the auditor and one of the commissioners were present, it became apparent to me that, you know, every month or every year that we get money from the state 911, right, it goes into the 1222 account, right? That money that they give us comes out to approximately $28,000 a month, and if we're lucky, at the end of the year, we get one additional allocation for hold harmless, and that's basically if there's a surplus in funds that 911 has, they disseminate it out to the counties based on the funds that they're entitled to, and how these funds are disseminated and how they are distributed to the counties. It is based on wireless sales for each particular county. Okay, so that means anyone who has a particular cell phone or any other wireless type device, they actually pay AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, whomever. When you pay your bill every month, right? There's algorithms that get sent out. This is where those accounts are in which particular county, right? State 911 gets that information. They get that money based on those sales. Money is distributed to those counties based on those sales. So you're going to have counties like Marion, for example, they're the highest paid. They get over $1 million a month, right? Clark County, they get $60,000 or $70,000 a month. We get $28,000 a month. What's become apparent to me, there might be a little bit of misunderstanding what the purpose of these funds are. I was led to believe that some of these people, some of you all believe that this 1222 money is my budget, and it's not my budget. By definition, it's not my budget. The 1222, the purpose of that is to offset my already existing operating costs to operate my PSAP every year. It's an annual cost, so it's a supplement that the state gives us to operate our budget. All right, and I've contacted over 40 counties. Once I got this information, I've spoken to every county that has touched us, to include also Marion, Tippecanoe, Lake County, Park County, Spencer County, the list goes on, and I asked them what their sourcing those was for their income and how they maintain the operating costs of their PSAPs. For an example, and it's really kind of diversified. The majority of them, they seek their major funding, their primary funding, from the county's general fund. All right, that's where the lion's share of the source for their budget comes from. The counties like Clark, Floyd, Jennings, when I asked how much towards your operating costs, because that's the 1222 money, how much operating costs is that? Every single one that I've talked to, the money of what their total operating costs are. We're fortunate because the way that it is right now, the money that I get from 1222 covers half of my dispatchers, and that's it. All right, that's what it is. So, but that's not my budget. I'm not operating on a deficit, all right, because the operating cost should come from public safety, should come from general fund, should come from the PSAP support fund. But just to dispel that, the 1222 is not my budget. It is money that the state sends us to augment and offset the cost of the operation of the PSAP. Okay, so but looking at that, I'm trying to do everything as fiscally responsible as I can. Overtime is a big cost right now, and the reason why overtime is a big cost right now is the sheriff had pointed out. You know, turnover is really high. It doesn't matter if you're wearing the badge. It doesn't matter if you're a corrections officer. It doesn't matter if you're dispatch. I'm in a very unique position right now because I've had the experience throughout my career to actually serve as a full-time employee in each of those. I started out as a full-time jailer, and I worked as a jailer for 2 years, and I worked as a uniformed sworn police officer for 21 years, and then I am now a full-time dispatcher, right? So I have a unique perspective on each one of these and the stresses that come along with it. In my experience, as far as like the burnout and the PTSD and the overall stress of the job, it's just my opinion, you take it how you want. Dispatch, by far, is the most stressful job, okay? Because the officers, they're stressed because they don't know what's going on, and the only information that they have is what the dispatcher can give them, right? People don't call dispatch and they don't call 911 because it's the happiest day of their life, it's the worst day of their life. And dispatchers become the brunt of their ire. It has really nothing to do with them, but they're the first outlet that they get. And just dealing with the sheer volume of calls, and if you'll go to the next page on the graphics that I gave you, I just took a sample of the first quarter calls that our dispatch center receives, and then the most recent quarter that we're in right now on calls, on our call volume and our call load that we get. And the numbers that I'm looking at here, as far as our call volume, we get, say for the first quarter of this year, from January 1st until May 31st of 2025, we had a total of 5,488 calls come in totally. All right, out of those 5,488 came in, 500 of them were 911. 23 of them, 300. They were non-emergency calls for service, administrative type calls and that type thing like that. Averages out to about 60 calls a day, 61 days, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, so and that's going to lead me into my next thing as far as staffing goes. The most current quarter that we're in right now, we have a total of 5,510 calls from July the 1st, or correction, June the 1st until August the 20th, yesterday. 5,510 in that particular time period comes out to, again, about 61 calls a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Taking a sample of those two, you know, use the two right here, the current one and the first one. 1,000 calls into this, over 99% for emergency or other non-emergency calls for service right to our dispatch center. Okay, and we have maybe 3 positions to handle that 24/7. It takes time, it takes money, it takes people to staff those positions. I was also approached with the possibility, to save money, because I want to save money like everyone else, and how I've done that is that we've had some openings in dispatch because people come in, they underestimate what we do, because when people think dispatch, they look at 911 on TV and they see, people in a nice air-conditioned facility with a computer screen, they're wearing their nice little headset and everything, they call somebody for help, and then, the cops and the firemen, they go through everything, dispatch, they go home, they drink, and everything's good to go. That's not the way to do this in real life, all right? It's very difficult, and when we hire people in, a lot of them, in the past year, I've gone through 5, all right? And 5 really doesn't sound like a lot. I have 11 dispatchers. You do the math, that's half of my workforce. Years or more. I have 2 more that have been there 2 years or more. Everyone else is a year or less, all right? The average retention period that we have for our dispatchers right now is less than a year. It's about 3/4 of the year, 6 months, 8 months at the most. All right, and the reason being is because they underestimate what we do. All right, I've had 2 of the people that have come in and they didn't even make it halfway through their training, and they come up to me or they went to the sheriff and they say, look, this is not what I thought it was. This isn't for me. I don't want to do it. We have other people that come in and they think they can do it, but they just don't have the fortitude to do it. Someone's losing their life and you're having to dispatch emergency services, because your voice is what's going to keep a person from jumping off of a bridge. And I've been working dispatch, for quite some time, and I've even taken calls myself where I talked someone out of suicide. And I believe I may have told you this story last year, but this person didn't want to talk to EMS. He didn't want to talk to fire. He refused police. He didn't want anyone to do with police. He would not talk to anybody but me. And even to the point where I had to have my supervisor at the time come in and relieve me, and I actually went and met this guy over here, right, to talk to him. And I had to talk to him. Now, we're fellow veterans, so I was also in the military. And that's the connection that we made, and he wouldn't talk to anybody until I talked to him face to face, assured him that everything was going to be okay, and then the police officers came in. Our dispatchers, they face that same thing on a daily basis, and it's not, just every now and then. It's on a daily basis. Anything that comes along, we've had dispatchers that have taken the 911 calls of their own child committing suicide. I've taken personally 911 calls from my own family having heart attacks or breaking bones and that type of thing. And so the stress and the PTSD that they get off of that, knowing that now it's family, right, that you're dealing with, but they still have to do the job regardless of what they do. Right, and we're standing to post 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when everyone else is at home eating turkey or when they're watching TV shows and everything, we are standing to post and we are ensuring that this county is safe. Right? So that's the reason for our turnover. Okay, they can't do it. One of these suggestions that was brought to me is that we actually maybe eliminate a couple of positions and make them part-time to save money. That will not work, and I want to tell you why it won't work, because there's another county that does it right now, one of our neighboring counties that does it. They work 10-hour shifts, and their weekend staff are part-timers, all right? And not only is their weekend staff part-timers, that between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., there is, right? And if something happens, an emergency happens, and they get overwhelmed, they have to call one of the deputies off the road to help them dispatch. Right? Where do you need your responders and where do you need your police officers? You need them on scene, you need them on site, you need them securing the scene for fire, for EMS, to subdue someone. But they can't because they're dispatching, right? So having a part-time person and I'm not saying this against part-time people, but they're not as reliable, number one, because they're part-time, they don't get benefits, or like, why do I need to do this? There's something I want to do, right? They don't get the benefits. They're not as well trained as a full-time staffer is, okay? We're required to do 16 hours of training to keep our certifications every year. We have to certify with IDACS every year to keep our credentials as a dispatcher. If we don't do that, then we lose our credentials and we can't work. We can't dispatch unless we have that. I just had to do mine last week, all right? But if the part-timers, if they call in, if they don't show up or whatever, then that means that I'm gonna have to call one of my full-timers in, and we're gonna have to pay them overtime to do that. And that's been the situation. We've had some people that have had to take some time off work. I've got one dispatcher now. She's on FMLA. She's been on FMLA for a couple of months, and she's continuing to be on FMLA until the mid part of next month, which means that I have to take one of my shift leads, and they're sitting in her position right now. Making shift lead overtime, right? I have done everything that I can to offset the cost of that. I sit in the chair, so I'm not having to do my 8 to 4 job, right? But I also respond and I also sit in the chair. I've averaged, and you can look at my time cards, for the past 6 months, every pay period that I have, I'm averaging over 100 hours, right? And that's me. All right, and I'm doing that because I don't get paid overtime, I don't get paid comp time or anything like that, right? So I could mandate one of my dispatchers to come in and work those hours and get paid overtime, which eats into his budget, which eats into my budget. But that's just not the way to do it. So anything that I can do to offset those costs, that's what I'm doing. They work hard, they work long hours. The way that the shifts are right now, they have a built-in 4 hours of overtime that they get every 2 weeks. That's also been on the table of taking that away. Those 4 hours of built-in overtime, and I'm getting this information from people who work at our department who are all during the early times. 4 hours of overtime has been around since at least November of 2007. Even some that before. Right? My understanding, I believe, is when this was made, he needs positions in place for some of his dispatchers that he had at the particular time. They weren't able to do it in the budget, so and I call it this way, this gentleman's agreement that was made, that they were going to go ahead for 4 hours of overtime that was going to be paid to them every other week. You were probably in that meeting, if I'm not mistaken, right? You may remember it, but for over 20 years, that has been an issue, that built-in overtime has never been codified, has never been put into our employee handbook, has never been put into a salary ordinance or anything. So every 2 weeks when I do my time card, or when I do my employees' time cards and I approve that 4 hours that they get in comp time for them to get paid the 4 hours of overtime, because it's eating into the overtime budget, right? And they were talking about taking that away, okay? We can't take it away, because if you take that away, then that's gonna reduce their income by $3,200 a year, okay? And with the cost of coverage that has just increased exponentially, doubled, for the cost of our health insurance, that's gonna put them even further behind. So in a way, they're actually paying to work here, right? And for what they do and everything that I've described to everybody, you know, of what we really do as dispatchers, it's not fair. It's not fair to them. And for everything that they have to endure and everything that they're going through, times are hard as it is right now, where they're part of a dual income family. Their husbands are working. Some of my dispatchers they even have off-duty part-time jobs that they do to moonlight to try to make ends meet. If those 4 hours are taken away from them every 2 weeks, you're doing nothing but putting them further in the hole. And when you do that, they're going to walk. And when they walk, that means I have to fill more positions, and it costs a lot of money to train people.
But the only trouble I have with that is misleading, because when you have a number on here of what their salary is, it doesn't include that. So, I said it's misleading to do it that way. Because when you add in that $3,200, I didn't know that their $3,200 is something they get.
That's not included in the salary, this $4,996.
I know, I'm just saying it's misleading, because I don't know that.
Yes, sir.
You
No,
know,
and
but
that's
then
why-
it makes the overtime budget look higher.
Yeah.
It needs to be cleaned up and put into a salary.
Yes, sir.
And not done through overtime.
Yes, sir.
That's not the way to do it.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, there has to be a way, right? And we're not asking for the moon. I've done my salary schedule, and for those, every single one of you that are on the board right now, I've spoken to you last year, and I did my salary study. And where we were at on the 9 counties that touch us, to include us, we were the second lowest paid. All right. After you graciously gave our dispatchers their raise, we appreciate that, we really do, but the other counties have gotten their raise now, so we are still tied for the second lowest paid. You know, we actually make more money now than Orange County, so we're number 7 out of number 9 now, but we're number 7 by $56 a year. Okay, so we make $56 a year more than Orange County, who is now taking over the 8th spot, and then Crawford County bringing up the rear. We take out the highest, which is Clark County. And those guys, they're funding, you know, their dispatchers are getting paid $55,000, $56,000, $57,000 a year plus, okay? We can't compete that, I don't want them to compete with that. The budget that I initially submitted with the request, and then the proposal that was given back, it looks like that is probably gonna be approved, and if it is, I thank you guys very much for that. The only thing that I'm asking right now, and I'm gonna be working on some initiatives try to control the overtime, to try to keep it at a minimum. I'm working on some initiatives. I'm going to be bringing some things up to my sheriff, and we're going to look at ways that we can decrease that, okay, to lessen the blow for the county. I mean, I understand everyone's got to tighten our belts. I understand that we're hurting for money, right? But if you're looking at the proposal that was given back to me, in that 1222, and speaking of that 1222, everything is zeroed out other than our salaries. Everything else was moved over to the 1235, and then, to my understanding, there's even going to be some monies that are being taken from public safety or the general fund, and that's fine.
I'm actually not confused by the 911 dispatcher thing, because from talking to you guys and other people in your department, this is a base, and the council, no offense to anyone, but we need to understand that those top lines are the base salary. Overtime's gonna fluctuate, because one week they may have 6 hours, and another week they may have 8 hours of overtime, and one week they may just have 4 hours of overtime on their 2-week period. So rolling it all together in one is gonna end up being, I think, more misleading to us as a council than just seeing this is their base, this is what they start out at, and given the fact that we're short-staffed, we're gonna have to keep it separate, because if you wanna see who's working all the overtime, you're gonna have to just go ask for a payroll report.
But are they actually getting 4 hours of overtime? Are they working 4 hours of overtime? Are they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
The way that our schedule is that we work right now, 1 week we work 40 hours, and the next week they work 44. So
Oh,
1 week is.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was confused. I was like you.
I was afraid you got confused.
Yeah, because it sounded like it was just a gentleman's agreement that we were just giving 4 hours.
No.
Of overtime, just to help their salary money.
No, and that those 4 hours that they worked was actually gonna be paid as opposed to having them go into the
Okay.
comp bank and then not get paid out
Sorry.
until They
I
reached
was
their
with you,
age.
I didn't.
I misunderstood.
Even if you cut them 4 hours out, then you'd have to pick up somewhere else by
Well,
adding an employee or something,
Mr.
so I
Carpenter,
mean.
you're absolutely correct, sir, all right, and that money's gonna have to be recouped somewhere.
How many dispatchers are you short right now?
Right now, I just hired one on Monday,
Okay,
okay? I have a dispatcher who's out on FMLA right now, so we've been without her for the past 2 months. So it's gonna be 3 months altogether. I still have one position that is open that I'm trying to get filled right now. I'm in the background process with 2 individuals. I have 2 candidates. I will be finished with, and I'm the only one that's working, or that's doing the backgrounds on them. Once I complete them, I'm gonna give my completed package to my sheriff. And he and I, we're gonna discuss, and we're gonna figure out the best candidate, and then that person will be offered a position. And then we're gonna go ahead and get them started, but the timeline on that is still gonna be a couple of weeks away, right? But getting back to everything, and it's just really just understanding, and these people have to assimilate as well and understand really what we do, getting them to make it through training and to keep through training. And I've extended the vacation, or the invitation, to everyone here that's on the council and on the commissioners to actually come in and take a seat in dispatch and actually see what we do. And this is no offense to anybody, but out of everybody that's sitting here, I see 2 people that have actually taken me up on that. Right? People that have actually come in and have sat down and asked questions, all right, and have put their hands on stuff, and what do we do, and how do we do that to get appreciated. I get it. You guys are serving your community as well, and you have your jobs and your things that you need to take care of, and you're busy. And that's not a dig on anyone, I don't really think that it is, but to truly understand what we do, and the passion that the sheriff has, for this whole thing, because we're all his baby, and he's the one that answers for everyone, right? And it's up to me to make sure that my division is running properly, and to take some of that off of him, all right, because he's got enough on his plate.
How many dispatchers do you have on station at one time for how
2.
long?
2.
And how long do they work?
Right now, the way that our shift schedules are done on our, what I call a short week, where they're working 40 hours, they work 2 8-hour shifts and 2 12-hour shifts. And on their long week, when they get their 4 hours of overtime, they work 3 12-hour shifts and 1 8-hour shift, okay? So basically, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, all right, those are 12-hour shifts. The Tuesdays that they work is an 8-hour shift. The Wednesday, every other Wednesday, is a 12-hour shift, and it rotates with an 8-hour shift, and then every other Thursday is a rotating 12 to an 8. And on our night shift right now, we have one shift that is dedicated completely to night shift, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. But then their counterparts, they actually have to throw an evening shift in the middle of that, so it's messing with their sleep cycle, with their circadian cycle, because they're working 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then having to turn around and work 2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
But if you get this other position filled and you get your other one back from FMLA, will that be able to stop then, or?
No, that's the way that the schedule was designed. And somebody here, the way that this scheduling is, and I understand the way that the personnel was at the time, that's the best answer that was there, right? And that's why I'm going to be working very closely with the sheriff, that we can come up with possibly an alternate solution that would kind of even things out for everyone, to give them a better work-home life balance.
Is that a
life.
2-week?
Pardon me?
Is that a 2-week rotation?
It's a 2-week rotation, yes, sir.
so I know you have Denny working part-time now.
She's my part-timer.
Right, so, and I know that's difficult, and it was evident by her being in here yesterday that she's clearly pulling a lot of hours a week, a lot. And a lot of them, and she's being drugged between both places. So would having full staff and this floating part-time position, because it's clear from her working 911, the state reimburses us half of her salary of whatever's classified as 911, so it's kind of a no-brainer for us as a council to sit here and say, okay, well, why would we only be utilizing a quarter of what we could potentially get from the state free for her salary? Why wouldn't we just move her over to full-time 911 and then, or EMA, I mean, and then offer someone like maybe an actual floater position in addition to what you already have as a part-time because then we're not losing any money from a council standpoint, because we're paying a salary over here, and now half of that salary is being reimbursed back from the state, and now we have this equal part-time position over here that's solely dedicated to 911 to be your floater. Then maybe they only work those shifts people are drained from coming in at 6 a.m., going out at 6 p.m. or whatever, and coming in at 3 or 4 hours later and working that next shift.
That's a very good statement, ma'am, and my response to that would be the way that things are designed right now. Here's the key, and this is very fluid, volatile, I guess, if you will. It all depends on if we get people hired, and we get them trained, and we get people to stay, right? Because the way that the framework is now, and this is the reason why that I requested for 2 shift leads as opposed to just having a chief dispatch. Having a shift lead on day shift and a shift lead on night shift would actually absorb a lot of that, because what the shift lead does is they oversee not only the daily operations, but if someone does call in sick, they can hop in the chair. So they are quote unquote floaters. You know, they're there to make on the spot corrections and run the day-to-day operations on their particular shift. But if something happens that they have to sit in a chair, they do that. I mean, and no one is above quote unquote sitting in a chair. I've done it, and I had to do it this week. I did it yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I know she said she was doing it yesterday too.
And she came and relieved me, yeah. So we kind of split that up. Denny, what she does is on her available, I try to use her as a last resort. All right, meaning that, you know, if everyone's in their position and my 2 shift leads are up and they're moving around and they're dispatching or, you know, overseeing the operations, and if they have to sit in a chair, they can do that. And if it doesn't happen, then I'll go, all right? And if something happens that I can't, then I try to use Denny the least amount as possible, because I know she can only give us 20 hours a week. That's the way that is set up, right? Sometimes, and especially since one of our ladies have been out on FMLA, Denny has done more than her share of pickup time on that. So, and you know, she and I have talked about it because we're the salaried employees, right? And in that way, we're not going to incur overtime doing those things. So we're doing our part. I'm doing my part. The sheriff is well above, you know, he's well aware of it, and he's helping us regulate that, and we're trying to keep everything to where we can to it would lessen the cost. And at the end of the day, I know it comes down to the bottom line, and it comes down to numbers and everything. And a lot of people, you know, they develop running a county as like a business model, but in this particular facet of the government, emergency personnel, first responders, running it as a business is we're not a business for a service agency. It's not a business. You're a business for one reason only, and that's to turn a profit. All right, and we can't do that unless we start charging people, you know, for calls when we go out. Hey, yeah, we'll send a copy. It's going to cost you $100 a run or whatever. So, but we can't do that. We're here to serve, and we try to provide the best service that we can to the citizens because they deserve it.
Okay. Don't mean to cut anybody off, but we are on a time frame here
Yes, sir.
with our schedule and being on the live stream. So, Kelly, thank you. And if we need you back, we will be in touch.
Thank you very much for your time.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We got a little behind there on the schedule, so we'll come back at 1:30. After lunch, and then we'll try to make that up this afternoon. So we're gonna break now till 1:30, be back here at 1:30.